First item on the agenda are minutes. Anybody read the minutes?
Yes. I'm gonna get them on my,
Okay.
and I know Courtney probably read some too.
Courtney, did you read any minutes?
I did, but I didn't read the ones from April 25th because I was not here that night.
Oh,
Yeah, and I wasn't here one night.
So therefore, I didn't feel appropriate for me to comment.
it was not. That was a wise decision, Courtney.
Thank you.
Well, how about one of the others?
Oh, okay.
Well, we have to read.
We have the minutes from May 23rd, and I've reviewed them, and I believe they're in order. We'll move to approve them, but I'll wait for, if anybody else has done it, found anything they want to correct, and then I'll make a motion.
I don't have May 23rd, so, because I was not here.
Okay. Any comment?
Oh,
Okay.
then I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
Page 5, just a second, I might have had something, I did have page 5, but I wasn't here, I think it was a correction. Maybe it wasn't, just a minute. No, sorry, retract.
Okay, I will move to approve the minutes from May 23 as written.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstained because I was not here.
And then I have May
Okay, just don't-
16.
May 16th.
Yep, and I've reviewed the minutes from May 16. We find them to be substantially in order and move their approval, but I'll wait until we find out if there are any other comments.
I will second that.
Do we have any comments? No comments? Okay, motion and a second on the table to approve the minutes of May 16th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
And I reviewed the minutes from June 6th and find them substantially in order and will move to approve them if there's no other corrections anybody else has picked up.
Second.
Okay, do we have,
I think I'm all set. I'm all set.
okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. April 25th, do you have that one, Maureen?
I was April 25th, yes, I do.
Have you read them?
I have read them, and
Okay.
I found them to be in compliance with what we all said.
Second.
Okay, any other comments? Motion to approve minutes of April 25th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Yeah.
All right, that was relatively painful. Request for determination of applicability. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation, care of Thomas McGuire, spelled the correct way, West Falmouth Highway, located at Station 233 plus 40, just south of the 536 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, for permission to remove debris and sediment from in front of the flared end inlet and head wall outlet of an existing 18-inch culvert. Wait just a second. Jen, do you have any comments?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff reviewed the project with recommending a -2 under the state bylaw with resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved. Okay.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Would you like to say something, Mr. McGuire, or would you like?
Yes, Madam Chairman, just for the record, my name's Tom McGuire, McGuire, District Environmental Engineer from the Mass Department of Transportation's Highway Division in Taunton. With me tonight is Mike Clements, the Assistant District Environmental Engineer, and Rich Madsen, who was a Senior Designer in our Project Development Section. What you have in front of you here tonight is, does everyone have the filing? I have handouts for it if you don't.
We don't get filings from our
We don't have-
You only submit 2 RDA copies to the board, so they basically rely on the staff's recommendations, so if you want to pass those out to the board, you may.
Thank you. This is a small maintenance project that was requested actually from the town and a butter that lives at 536 West Falmouth Highway, which is Route 28A. He lives right on the corner of Chappoint Road, and you'll see that in the USGS locus map. This is part of the filing. And you'll also see attached to it a drainage.
And they're gonna fix the culvert. Oh,
We have a small culvert, an 18-inch culvert underneath the road there. And basically, it's conveys water from the inland side to the ocean side. And the person that lives at 536 feels that he wants it cleaned out because it seems to be causing a problem with water on his property. He talked to someone here in the town called us, and so we talked to your agent, went out with him, and I said, "Geez, should we file?" He said, "Well, just to be sure, why don't you?" So here we are tonight, and basically we want to clean out each side of it and the pipe.
actually,
that's what we're
Mr.
proposing.
McGuire, this is a she, and she asked me, and I got her in contact with the town engineer.
Oh,
She
okay.
just called me today because
Good.
there continues to be a problem there. So
That's why we're here
I'll
tonight.
call her tomorrow and say that you're gonna fix it.
I move to accept the staff's recommendation of a
Well, I
negative.
think we already have a motion on the
Oh,
table.
we did that? Okay.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Is that where the Japanese knotweed is pretty prolific on both sides, mostly on
Well,
the,
especially on
on
the
the,
inland side.
on the east side?
Yeah.
On the east side,
Yeah,
that's
on the east
correct.
side? Okay. So is anything gonna be done with that, or just hopefully the
No, not,
the mosquito control just keep going in and cutting it back?
I don't know what mosquito control is going to do, but we're not going to do anything about the
Okay.
knotweed. We,
All right,
They're just gonna
Thank
fix
you.
the drainage.
just fix the
Yeah.
culvert. Great.
yes.
Okay, are there any questions from the audience? Okay, there's a motion on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. And for those of you who don't know, RDA's, a negative determination means that Mass Highways can go ahead and clean this culvert out. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. But don't go, I think you're on again tonight.
We are.
James Tegas, 5 Canapitsit Drive, East Falmouth, for permission to install 2 4-foot by 20-foot floats to be secured to the existing licensed bulkhead. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area values not confirmed.
So move.
Second.
Any questions on the board?
Just one quick question, Jen.
Yeah.
These floats are gonna float because it says it's land containing shellfish?
Yes, they will float. Pretty
Okay.
deep over there.
Okay.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm opposed because it exceeds our 100-foot floats. It's 200 and something, 160.
Okay. You awake now? Susan, one opposition, Maury. Everybody, aye except Maury. So, motion passes
Passes.
with one opposition. Marlene Belfort, 3 Main Entryway, North Falmouth, for after-the-fact permission to allow the existing driveway.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until June 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any question? Yes?
I received somewhere that June 27th is really a full night, isn't it?
It is, but this is just a quick.
This will be-
RTA, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is a continuance to June 27th. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Commonwealth Properties Realty Trust, 113 Falmouth Heights Road, Falmouth, for permission to replace the existing licensed broken piling with a green heart piling.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project, and we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Board? Any questions from the audience?
I got one comment. Nobody's using the plastic pilings anymore, the Pearson pilings. Okay. Maybe we need another night of talking about that.
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Continued requests for determination of applicability. Black Beach Harbor Head Association, care of William Resnikoff. The entire length of the dirt roadways for Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road, and Drift Road, West Falmouth, for permission to upgrade the existing roadway, give the road a 2% cross slope going away from the wetlands where possible, add less than 1 inch of native dense fill, fine grade, and then compact the roadway after wetting. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I put something in front of you that the applicant had submitted last week. At this point, the staff is recommending a positive 3 into the state and the bylaw that the resource area boundary is not confirmed. And this is because we feel the project does need to be conditioned to protect the interests of the wetlands in that area.
I'll move to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions on the board? Ed?
Yeah, I'd just like to make the comment and underline what it says in the document before us. This real estate is in something called the District of Critical Planning Concern, and that accordingly, we are required to be extra vigilant in examining any possible threats to the wetlands resources.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Sir?
Yes, my name is Steve Doyle. I'm at 28 Gilbert Lane in Black Beach. I'm also a president of our neighborhood association. And also with me is Bill Resnikoff, who's an officer of our association and also lives in Black Beach. Plus we have some of our other residents from Black Beach, the Travers and Molly Barnes. And with me also is Jack Landers Cawley, who's an engineer, and Jeff Oppenheim, who's an attorney who's helping us with this. So I just want to give a little bit of background to this proposal, and then...
Okay, I will just tell you that under an RDA, if it takes more than 5 minutes,
I understand.
Our feeling is that it deserves a notice of intent.
I understand.
Okay?
So, you know, in Black Beach, there's about 1.5 miles of dirt roads that have been there for a long time. Basically, they've been scraped and maintained by the town of Falmouth. There are 2 major problems with the roads today. They're in horrible conditions, and they pose 2 major threats. One is to the environment. Right now, there's a lot of wash that goes off into the marsh. The second is really health and safety. We have a lot of residents in the summertime who are elderly, some in their 80s and 90s, and then also children. We had a problem last summer with an emergency vehicle having difficulty being able to respond to a call. So as residents, what we wanted to do is to pay for ourselves instead of the town to have proper maintenance work done on the road. And we took into consideration, we hired local people, a local construction company that would do the work, and we also took into consideration comments from the staff of the commission as well as the town engineer. So I'd like to now just ask Jeff Oppenheim to explain our proposal.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Jeff Oppenheim, I'm an attorney here in Falmouth. I asked the commissioners to take into consideration the practical consequences of what's before you this evening. We have a road, a private road in disrepair. It's been probably in existence at least 100 years. We're trying to restore about 2,600 feet of the road. We've already stated that we have health and safety concerns. I went out there this morning in my Toyota Camry. It was a very rough ride. If we have to get an ambulance or fire equipment down that road, it's going to be very slowly, I can tell you that. And if they try to go fast, they'll end up in our wetlands. You've already heard about the sensitivity of the area. Mr. Schmidt mentioned that. We are in a DCPC. Wherever we look, wherever we walk, we're in a protected resource area. The road is where it is. We're not changing the road except to change the slope of the road so that the runoff does not go into the wetlands. It's an improvement. This board is concerned about our wetlands. We as a neighborhood are concerned, and we're going to try to address that. We also have the convenience of transit. which is not your concern, okay? It's not something that you have to be worried about. But what I would say to you is the following. We have 40 families in this neighborhood who pay close to $400,000 a year to our tax base who are having a hard time getting to their home. It could be that our emergency vehicles will have a hard time getting to their home to help them if they need help. Getting out of their neighborhood in case of emergency is a problem. So on a very practical level, and I know this board is practical, there is all we want to do is maintain a road. We cannot do this under a notice of intent. It is too involved. We have too many people. We have too many legal issues. If you turn us down under the RDA, respectfully, it will not happen under a notice of intent, okay? It's not a threat, it's just not practical. It will happen when it becomes an emergency situation or the neighbors petition our community to do the grading by our DPW. I submit to you that the board will actually have more control if we can do it through Jack's office, with the assistance of our engineers, with the able assistance of our professional staff. We've already been out there. We've walked the site. They're prepared to do this in a proper way. We are not in a position of doing this under notice of intent. We wish it was possible. The expense, the logistics would be an absolute nightmare. And we will just sit back and we will wait until our community does it because we petitioned them, or maybe we'll wait to the next storm event where it's a true emergency and the roads are not passable. We'd like to be able to do it. We are willing to pay for it. We've done a lot of work so far. We don't believe there's any alternatives here. It's not like there's lots of choices. It's an insular neighborhood. They need to have access to their homes. They deserve to have access to their homes. And we ask you to think a little bit outside the box on this one, because it is different. It's unique. I don't think you have to worry about negative precedents. And we would ask for your support and allow this work to go forward under an RDA. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'd like to know how it's unique.
Pardon me?
I'd like to know how it's unique. This board has required other homeowners associations to file RDAs for, granted, a lot larger drainage structures, but, you know, staff just feels that the project needs to be conditioned. The homeowners association has been in contact with our office since 2009, and our office has not wavered in its recommendation that this project be done under a notice. I understand and am sympathetic to some of the issues involved with property owners being out of state, parcels being under the jurisdiction of banks, but the board feels comfortable with the way the project's being proposed.
Yes.
It'll be your call.
If I may, these are all very compelling arguments. I'm going to look directly at you and tell you that I've sat on this board and I've heard promises being made. No aspersions to anybody on this, but life happens. When there's an IDA, we cannot set restrictions and guidelines that are tangible for the contractors. So this information given is appreciated. It truly is. And it's compelling. I've been down that road. Yeah, it stinks, you know. But there is a timeline and a history to this. Poor planning on your part does not necessitate an emergency for me. And I say that not smarmy. It's just, this is something that always comes to us. When you engage staff years ago, and there's something that's said, a notice of intent is necessary. If communication had started back then in sincerity, as it is now, because now you have to, because the holes make my catalytic converter come off, okay, you know, I don't want to not have an emergency vehicle go down there, or somebody not get their fuel, or their propane, or all the other daily events that happen, and it just keeps eroding away. I also don't want, and I'm putting families even above what the runoff is, okay? Because it's kind of funny that way, all right? But the runoff, it's got a historical thing, even when the town was doing this. I'm right on the fence. I'm here, like, if I give you an RDA today, what kind of promissory do I have that a notice of intent as an association, a blanket one, then you have a 3-year permit or a 5-year maintenance program? And is it expensive? It's expensive to live in that portion anyways, just because of the taxes and all the other things that go on. All right? It's part of what you absorb as a community member there. But it could be manageable, spread over time. Okay, when all of a sudden you just, oh God, we gotta do it now. Yeah, nobody's prepared for that, including us. Okay, my RDA information is here. I don't get to go out there, I don't get to see all your hard efforts. I don't get to see the resources out there marked as other areas do. I don't get to see the grade, on another engineering firm, private road, Ransom Road in particular. I went out there 3 times looking at it. They came in, and there again, everybody on that road had to be involved in it. And it was a little more, even more complex than some of the areas that you have. I'm speaking as an individual, but some of this is also a collective thing, that you can't expect us to have a comfort level as a board where we cannot set any true guidelines. There's a word, and I'm not saying that I don't believe you, but there's so many times, oh, well, we couldn't get that. Oh, we didn't have enough time to do this. We wanted to get that section out of the way today, right? And RDA, oops, oh well. That's what we're stuck with as a board. We have no tangible conclusion to this for us. And then something goes wrong, somebody comes back, hey, we're the bad guys again. I'm not always a bad guy, but I can't, I'm talking too much. All right, I'm done.
Courtney?
I've sat on this board for a number of years, and
Jack?
I've always believed that there should be practical solutions to problems. But I also sat on this board long enough to know that when we look at RDAs as opposed to notices of intent, a lot of those things, the criteria that kick it to a notice of intent are the amount of work that's necessary to be done. And in this case, I don't see this as a project that would not be approved, but our need is to condition something properly. It's been, this project has been, continued several times this spring, and it came in front of us earlier, I think last fall, because the DPW wanted to grade the road. So, we've seen this stuff, it's been in front of us. And I understand, I hate to use the Bill Clinton's phrase, I feel your pain, but I think that the scope of this requires a notice, and so and I realize that perhaps adds a burden of inconvenience and cost and so forth, but in terms of our being consistent in the decisions that we make and the criteria that we insist on, for us to do other than to say we should have a notice on this would be, we wouldn't be doing our job.
Any other comments?
I just had one question.
Yes.
Madam Chair, to Jen, if this goes, obviously, it's going to end up probably as a notice of intent. My question is, currently, that road it's getting close to impassable. I just don't know, is the town going to be allowed to go out to do anything out there until a notice of intent is filed?
Again, I have been telling the homeowners association to file the notice since 2009.
Okay.
I do know the town does go out there. I've had discussions with the town on the sensitivity of the area. It's something I'm working with the town to do.
Okay.
One of our
Could I make a
concerns
comment,
with this particular
Jen?
project, yes, you can in 1 second, is not only just the grading and how they grade it, but the material that's being placed.
Oh, I know. I mean, the town actually exacerbated the
Yeah, I was just
problem
gonna
out there.
say.
Absolutely.
I mean, unfortunately, that's why it would be nice if the homeowners did it with a professional firm that would do it correctly. But it sounds to me like now that if they can't do it under an RDA to have the professional firm in, then it's gonna go back to the town doing it, which, to be honest, has been more detrimental to the environment than most other projects.
I would definitely, and I did the last time, but it was done between when I knew that the town was gonna work there and when they actually did work there. They brought a lot of fill.
Yeah.
And I went out after the next storm.
And it was all in the wetlands.
It was in the wetland.
Yeah, and the town owns land out there, so they're gonna be part of the, if the notice does get filed, they're gonna be part of this filing, and so, just to make it clear that, they're gonna be part of this after all.
Yeah, I think the problem with the town doing it is they don't have the proper compaction equipment
Right,
that Lawrence Lynch has.
right.
My feeling is, if it's done right, it's a road. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was done right until about 15 years ago, and that's when it started going downhill. So, I mean, I just hope it goes forward and is done properly, because at this point, the environment is suffering the worst from it not being done right.
Ed?
Yeah, a few comments. Yeah, I've been on this board a few years. We've probably had about a dozen projects out in that area, so I'm certainly familiar with it, and I have been challenged to negotiate most of the very large potholes on any number of occasions, and fortunately, I never did bottom out as far as I know. So, yeah, certainly the work needs to be done. There's no question about that. I do have a concern, though, about making exceptions to our procedures. I sort of contemplate what could happen in terms of opening, what's it called, the proverbial Pandora's box. If we make exceptions for you guys, will be a line of people outside the door in the next couple of months, all looking likewise for special exceptions because they have some great hardship that you want to address to us. And so as much as I empathize with you, I think because of my familiarity, I guess, with the area, I really think we need this notice of intent myself. This is a much bigger project than the short description before us, which talks about 1 inch of dense fill. To grade this thing, there are enormous potholes out there, so an awful lot of soil needs to be moved around. There's a tremendous amount of work, and I'm sitting here with the one little packet here of information. This is from the State Highway Department, the gentlemen who are with us here tonight on 2 different projects. This, to my way of thinking, is a much smaller project than what you're contemplating, and the amount of paperwork and I've been impressed with the thoroughness of how the state conducts business. I'm patting you guys on the back, but I think you deserve it. I mean, this is for a much smaller project, but they've really gone out and done it the way it needs to be done, so I think those are my comments.
Jack? Oh, wait a second.
I just wanted to follow up on Maury's concern about the town getting involved. The town does have land out there, has quite a bit of land at the end of Black Beach, and we all know. And I'm concerned, yes, for the resources, but almost more so in line with the residents about emergency vehicle access. That is a real issue out there. There's narrowness there. There's an inability for them to turn around. I really do think town engineer should be involved in having an emergency turnaround at the end of that road. That's way beyond the 600-foot limit of cul-de-sac for subdivisions, things like that. It really needs that for safety. So I would like the town's input for the emergency vehicle access.
Jack?
2 comments. I'll try to be brief. The first is we're not opposed to meeting with staff or the engineering department to set whatever conditions that we think are appropriate, list those conditions, and actually give them to you. I think that's important to know because we have, I feel I won't say slighted, I feel that the board doesn't understand the level of thoughtfulness we've put into this project. That's the first part. The second is, there's a combination of registered and unregistered land out in this particular area. And the fact of the matter is, if any individual that has an ownership interest in that road objects to this project, that order of conditions is not going to stand and is not going to go forward. They have 40 different homeowners. There's already been discussion amongst us as to individuals who have no interest at all in doing anything because they own the land, but they don't use it. Or they own the land and they figured, it's your problem. We don't want to be encumbered by the order of conditions. And the fact of the matter is, it is an enormous encumbrance for someone who has no interest in doing anything on that property, and if they should convey it later on, it encumbers the conveyance. So they haven't taken this lightly. They understand that a notice is the preference that you have, but you also have to understand it will not go forward because of that specific reason. There's already opposition to having a notice filed, period.
That's happened in other areas, and talk to the people at, what was the one?
Well, I'm familiar with Ransom Road.
Ransom Road.
I am very familiar with Ransom Road because I know the firm that did
There are legal
it.
ways if you're a neighborhood in the road, there are legal ways to go forward with a project, even if some people don't agree with it.
I understand.
Isn't that true, Jeff?
It was true in the Ransom Road situation. I think it's a different situation. I think the commission could make a distinction. I represent the Ransom Road Association, so
Okay.
I'm very familiar with that situation.
Okay.
That
I
was a
just wanna
paved
say-
road. There was
Right.
an opportunity to put structures in. You know, we're at groundwater here. I mean, you know, this is a whole different ballgame. I mean, it's what makes the area so sensitive also makes it so limiting. You know, it's so is.
I think we're all familiar with the resources and,
Okay.
yes.
I know,
Let's
I know
move
I know
on
that
for a
we've-
vote, okay?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Madam Chair. I truly do. But affording the time, I'm happy to do so. I got to tell you, the comfort level that I needed to be able to promote this, you know, there's little gaps that just, we plan to use Lawrence Lynch. You know, we plan to, all right? That leaves, I've had to parse words on this board, and I've been calloused by sentences that we are going to use Lawrence Lynch. Gives me and I'm not trying to be, you know, nitpicky, but those are the words that have flagged us in the past. And then when Jack just described, he says, we will, what we see appropriate, I believe is the term that you used, all the conditions we deem appropriate, that you guys deem appropriate. You know, it doesn't give us the chance to apply our regulations and give certain flexibilities. This is something I would definitely approve of. No one's going to deny the maintenance of the road. In fact, I think if communication had been engaged earlier on, a 5-year notice of intent would defer the cost of the filing, and you would have a real strong maintenance plan that would be undebatable. And then when you come for a renewal or a new notice of intent, you've got a historical piece that gives you more than that. You don't have to go through this process that you are right now.
Okay, one more comment, and then there's a notice on, there's a vote on the table. Yeah, you can.
Can I respond?
I don't want 5 minutes is long gone.
You know, I understand, I completely sympathize with why you want to have more control over the situation, to require conditions, so you can make sure it's done. And I understand your argument, trying to say that if this was done and all these properties had the order of conditions on it, and then, of course, it would get renewed, we'd have a period of 3 years, for instance, to be able to redo it in 18 months, and then we'd get an extension on that. And those would be basically filed against those properties for 5 years or more years. We just have a practical problem, because I've looked at this. I am an attorney. I've looked at the registered land throughout that area. I know it's owned by trusts, one in Colorado. It's owned by absentee landlords. We've been told that they are not going to approve this, and not going to agree. You know, when I look at it logistically, we're still talking years before I could get through with all these people, work out a plan with them, and be able to have an order of conditions placed against the property. It's just purely a practical thing. On the flip side, and I can't reiterate this enough, we are willing to work with the commission in whatever way you want to make sure that we get all the conditions. We walk the road with the staff. We had a town engineer walk the road, point out different things. We have a map where that Jack Lander's colleague put together, which really shows where we would do the work. We offered to stake it, to do all those things. And we're willing to continue to do that. But we don't have a practical way to go through with a notice of intent and order of conditions. We just don't have the resources, and we don't have the people and the time, or the ability to get through all that. And I understand completely as an attorney why you would prefer that, with your legal control. But I also know as an attorney, practically, we're not going to be able to get that done.
Thank you. Okay, there's a notice on the table, what's it called? Motion. There's a motion on the table and a second to accept staff's recommendation of a positive determination. We all on the same page, Susan? Right? Okay, so I'll call for the vote. This is to accept staff's recommendation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Aye.
How many opposed? 2 opposed? How many ayes? So the motion passed, the project did not pass.
Unfortunately, it's going to cost the town a lot of money.
The next RDA is Michael Bullard, 47 Miami Avenue, East Falmouth, for permission to upgrade with a new Title V sewage disposal system, reconstruct the back steps and paved driveway, install a drainage system and native plants, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff is recommending a -2 under the state bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. If anyone is, oh, you took it, what did you do with that other one, Jen? It's not even on the agenda.
If anyone is here for 259 Lake Shore Drive, that will be on June 27th. I know the abutter notifications were sent out for today. Just wanted to make that announcement.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, the first is Benjamin and Phyllis Lasordo, 162 Minot Road, East Falmouth, for permission to construct a 3-foot by 25-foot pier walkway, 2.5-foot by 23-foot pier walkway with 2-inch by 12-inch stringers, and permit the existing wooden piers.
Madam Chair, I'm recusing myself from this hearing.
Okay. Thanks, Maureen. Sorry. Okay, Ted, you're in charge. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll save any of my comments until after Tom's presentation.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
We have to get somebody else up to speed here.
Tom, could you do me a favor right before you start, can you let them know the plan date? You guys should all be looking at a plan with a revision date of June 6th.
June 6th.
June 6th is June. Everybody got it? All right. Sometimes they look at the wrong plan.
June 6th.
It was submitted afterwards.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready. Yes.
Tom Bunker with BSS Design, representing Mr. Sordo. Mr. Sordo is in the audience with us today. First, I'd like to correct the advertisement a little bit. These are 2 feet wide. There's no 3 foot wide or no 2.5 foot wide pier walkways going on. They're all 24 inches. This is a project, I'm sure you all are familiar with the area. It's right at the Great Pond Bridge along Minot Road. Go by there all the time. There's a pier and some mooring piles or tie-off piles in there, a little gravel parking area, paved driveway down to it. This project, the area actually is probably one of the few deep water areas here that's not in a velocity zone. It's in an A zone, so there's no prohibition on structures in this area. There is a velocity zone. I think the bridge and all this breaks the velocity zone. So this project is in an A zone. The waterway into Great Pond is quite wide. It's about 110 feet at the bridge. It's an existing licensed pier, and all these pilings are licensed. There's actually 2 licenses involved. The riprap all the way down there is involved, or is licensed. What they want to do, and there has been on 2 of these pilings for some years, there have been 2 of these short little walkways, or narrow walkways, I should say, on 2 of these. And actually, one thing why we had to do a revised plan was that the time we did the original survey, the second one in from the south was existing, and I showed that on the original plan as existing, but it turned out that that actually came off in a storm. So the revision was to show that as also a proposed one, a proposed walkway. So what they're doing there, there's 1, 2, 3 proposed pier walkways, each 2 feet wide by 20. These 2 are 23 feet long. The furthest north one is 25 feet long. There's an existing one remaining, which is 18 inches wide, and that will be just rebuilt with new decking. Well, probably completely rebuilt with stringers, but to be 24 inches wide. Not expanding the, say, the mooring field, the number of boats that go in there now. There's very good depth, well over 3 feet. There's like 6, close to 7, more than 7 feet out here at low water. Talked to an environmental consultant who would normally do the shellfish survey, and it was his opinion, not that there are no shellfish, but I mean, there'd be mussels and a few other things, but that because we're not expanding the docking or berthing area, that a survey should not be required in this case, and also because of the currents going in and out there, that it's not an area that would be fished, because it would just be too dangerous for anyone to go out in that water to pull any fish. There could be some down there, but it's again so deep, and again, we're not expanding yet. These are existing docking areas. So basically, we're requesting permission to put in the 3 new and rebuild 1 old narrow piers, basically for access to the boats that, are always being tied up there already. I'll take questions.
Thank you. Jen, want to make some comments?
Yes, Madam Chairman. First of all, the existing wood platform pier that Tom has marked on the BSS plan is not permitted. The main dock wood pier at elevation 4.5 with the 6 pilings next to it, and the 4 tie-off pilings, and that's what they were called in the notice of intent, and that is what they're called in the license. Tie-off pilings were approved under an order of conditions in 91 and a subsequent Chapter 91 license. Those, over the years, let's go back to the order of conditions. One of the special conditions of the order allowing those pilings to go in was that number 6, no expansion of the footprint of this dock is allowed, and the dock may not be rebuilt and the dock may be rebuilt to include the 8 tie-off pilings. But they were not allowed to increase the footprint of the one pier that was permitted, which is the third one in, the larger pier, and the 8 tie-off pilings. Now in 98, you can see that little platforms started to appear that were not permitted to extend to those tie-off pilings. So the one that is labeled existing wood platform, to my knowledge, unless, Tom, you have documentation otherwise, that platform was not permitted by this board or by the Chapter 91.
I think that's correct.
Yeah. So if this board, right now, when this dock was built, there were the 2 mooring areas or berthing areas on either side of the larger wooden pier and the tie-off pilings. Staff use this as an increase in this system. You would be able to put a number of other boats there. If you were to approve this, you should require a shellfish survey, harbor master letter to comply with your regulations. I understand the desire to have those platforms, given that boats tend to tie between 2 pilings, which I believe in Mr. Lasordo's narrative that was submitted, they realized they couldn't tie a boat parallel to them. Harbor master would not allow it, which is, I think, the reason for the 2 additional pilings originally. So they came to put the boats in perpendicular to the riprap. Those are my comments.
Okay. Somebody have this one? Court, we'll start with you.
I'll reserve my comments.
Arthur?
I don't have any questions.
Ed?
Yeah, Mr. Bunker, could you describe to us how the current structures are being used? And I guess I'm interested in your comments about how boats are being tied up and whether somebody's doing something might be called a Mediterranean moor, where you might tie the bow of the boat to one of the outer pilings and the stern might be backed up toward the riprap and perpendicular. Or are boats kind of tied up, maybe the bow to one of the pilings and a stern to another piling? But just describe for us how these are currently being used.
The only time I've seen it, Mr. Lasordo can elaborate on that, is boats are tied up perpendicular to the riprap. Bow to the piling out there, and the stern to the riprap, or the other way. All the pilings are licensed.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to make
All right,
sure
I have
that's
another
clear.
question. Have you spoken to the harbor master about this?
We submitted this to the harbor master.
Okay, but you haven't had a response yet?
Haven't had a response.
Did you consider delaying this hearing till you got that response? Because that is a requirement of that's a requirement of this commission.
I didn't consider that. I figured, if we can at least open it and get some feedback before continuing.
Those are my questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
Well, not a question, a comment, that since we're going to continue it, apparently, so that you can provide us something from the harbor master. I have two comments. One is, normally we like to see mooring fields shown on any dock plan. And the second is just, I always, as a marine biologist, I always have to throw in whether you can fish those clams or not. If there are clams there, they still play an important role in the function of our ponds. I'm not necessarily saying you need a shellfish survey. I just don't want people to think that if you can't eat them, they're not worth anything.
But it's kind of odd, though. I think the commercially valuable shellfish are the ones that are most protected under your regulations. Isn't that true? It just seems like all shellfish, like mussels, or
Well,
something. Should.
Yes and no. You have to overcome the presumptions that you're not impacting.
No, I was just saying that as a
resources.
comment that
Yeah.
on the regulations, not related to this or any other permit in particular.
You are correct in that observation. Ed?
Yeah, I thought of another question.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the existing pilings, and I'm seeing you've got about a 24-foot walkway. Can you describe to us the condition of those existing pilings? I guess my concern is, are they strong enough and stable enough to support, it could be a considerable weight if you got 4 or 5 people at a time walking out to, come onto a boat. And I'd be concerned, it's not really our province, I guess, but a safety issue there on what you're planning to construct. So the question really, again, comes down to the condition of those pilings and engineering-wise, their ability to support the structure. Can you comment on that?
I believe they're adequate. I mean, there's the one on the little one that's on the walkway that's existing, is adequate. Haven't had any troubles with it.
What's adequate?
Well, to support the walkway and people on it.
Okay.
I have another comment, too. You have one tie-off cleat typical? And then-
Yeah, they're just a bunch of cleats fastened in. They're just little marks along there. There's little cleats.
But you say typical, are where you show them, did you just sort of dot them in? Or they are actually
They
where they're
actually
shown?
are there.
Pardon me?
They actually are there,
The ones that you show here are there?
yes.
Okay,
Those are existing cleats.
yeah,
Anchored
there
into
wasn't
the
sort of a
rock.
flight of fancy.
Hmm?
You didn't just say there could be cleats scattered here.
No.
This is actually where the cleats are.
Yes. They were located.
And are they cemented into the
The
riprap?
rock, yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't think we need,
Could Mr. Lasordo just speak briefly
yes?
about what is?
Good evening.
The reason why those two walkways went in originally, 18 years ago? Yeah, is he had a boat there, and he couldn't get on. There was no way, when you tie the boat, to walk to get off the boat. You had to go over stone, and there was a hazard. And I sent my brother Frank. I'm not a boatman. I get seasick. But he had a boat. He knew a lot of guys in this town. He went to he saw the harbor master in those days. He saw everybody in there. And he found that if we put the things in and portable that you could take out, that would be all right. And furthermore, in this town, every harbor you go to, there's a pier, 2 piers, the tie-off piers, and they have a ramp, a platform to get off. If you can't find one, I'll show there's one down in the harbor, but they have a step in the corner. They put a board in there. So for the safety of the kids, I had to put it in for him because he's disabled. He couldn't get off. He had to go across. And I want the other 2. And furthermore, if we didn't build this pier or put any stone in there, I had it all written up. I had it all done.
Right.
We put 400 feet of riprap on that grape pond for the whole dirt back. They wouldn't get in and out of grape pond if that riprap wasn't in there. And those piers are in a cove. There's no boat that can come through. And no big boat can be in there, only small boats. No boat can tie on the long end, the harbor master told me. And every one of those piers are legitimate. The 2 piers that they there's two piers are built, one in 1971. The reason why the pier in 71 disappeared, it was made of oak, and the tide washed the 4 inches. In 1995, I come in with my son, and we put a new dock. We started a new dock. There was the main dock was in, and there was 2 piers, but the 2 piers, I didn't know, were not supposed to be in on the end. But when we put the new dock in, I have the stuff here. I got the Army engineers, I got the selectmen, I got the
Chapter 91.
yeah, I have everybody said they should be in there. I don't know if you guys got that stuff in front of you.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
got that
Well,
in our packets.
Anybody can read it. It says right there, those piers are good.
It says the pilings.
Pilings are good. And what do you give you a piling for, lady? They give you a piling so you could put your ramp to get off. You get to get off your boat. How is this? Come here, you tell them. How?
What he's saying is, if you put a boat in there and use those pilings, you have to jump off the front of
Yeah.
it to the rocks.
Yeah, we understood it.
Okay?
Yeah, but what-
It's
The
impossible
filing was very clear.
Because the boat is out about 4 feet from the riprap. That's why the piers are there, so you can get off the boat. That's great, that's
Yep, I think,
cut and dry.
I think everybody understands what it
Yeah,
is.
You only have, you get 8, from the toe to the top of the riprap, that's 8 feet. You only got 16 feet over water, and there's no shadow from the 2-foot thing. You got a bridge that's 40 feet long, 150, with all kinds of shadow. If there's any cohorts or anything there, but there isn't because the tide is too fast. There's nothing can grow there.
Thank you, sir. I think we understand what the project is.
And I
Just requested a little bit more information
I
from
only
Tom.
have, there's 3 or 4 other guys that are disabled also. And they're all kids now, they're all now senior citizens.
Well, that's what happens.
Me.
Yep, that's what happens to us all.
Yeah.
I have a question, Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
Tom, from the top of the decking that you're proposing to mean high water on your profile, how many feet is that?
3.6.
Where is it? It says 3.6. From
Top of the decking to the high water.
Top of the
5
decking
minus
to-
1.4.
what was that?
5 minus 1.4 is
Okay,
3.6.
thank you.
Could you provide us that information?
No, it's right
3.6?
there. I got it.
No. No, the information that we asked.
Which,
Well, I asked for
Harbor
mooring
Master?
fields, and we asked for a harbor master letter.
was that one, two things, was it?
Two things, mooring fields, harbor master letter. Does this have a DEP number?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Just for a matter of the record, could we just have your name for the record, please? Yes,
Oh, so,
thank you.
Thanks. All right, date.
This isn't how deep
Yes, she has to. Do you want a date?
Continuance, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think my wife's on the plane to Switzerland right now, so why not?
Well, this will be a short meeting tonight.
Wow.
Yes.
A date for a continuance. I would like to see where the mooring fields are, and then I'll have enough information to make a decision. Okay.
July 11th. That's the next
Okay,
available
I guess the
one I
4th is the
have.
4th, isn't it?
What?
The 4th is the
They-
4th.
They're not meeting the 4th, and June 27th is full.
That's what I've heard. All right.
Email went out today.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move to continue to July 11th at the request of the applicant.
Second.
Any more questions from the board? Any more questions or comments from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is a continuance to July 11th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes. Now, gentlemen, you've been sitting there patiently, although this is quite a short meeting. Mass Department of Transportation, care of Thomas McGuire, intersection of Thomas B. Landers Road and Route 28A, map 15-02-006-A000, North Falmouth Highway, North Falmouth, for permission to enhance drainage treatment into Crocker Pond through replacement of the head wall and pipe at Crocker Pond, removal of existing sediments, installation of a new 24-inch RCP flared and further upslope, stone pad sedimentation basin, additional leaching structures, a new drainage manhole, further upslope, restoration of disturbed vegetation with native species, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll see if any of my colleagues will allow this
Mr. McGuire, welcome again.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and again, for the record, my name's Tom McGuire. I'm the District Environmental Engineer from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's Highway Division Office in Taunton. With me tonight is Michael Clements, the Assistant District Environmental Engineer, and Rich Mattson, the Senior Designer in our Project Development section. This project stems from our filing of an RDA with you folks last year to resurface Route 28 here in town. And one of the discoveries we made during that process was that we had a problem down at Crocker Pond. The concrete head wall down there had pipe behind it that ruptured, basically blew out, and has eroded a lot of material. And the concrete head wall now stands alone by itself, separated from the pipe. You were concerned about, of course, the treatment of the runoff itself, along with the condition of the outlet. So we have put together a notice of intent here tonight with you. The file number is 025-3838. And Mike has a presentation prepared. Mike did up the notice of intent, and Rich Mattson did all of our drainage calculations, working with Mike on the project. So if we could, we'd like a few minutes of your time to go through a relatively brief presentation. We have plans in front of you. Everybody, I believe, has a copy of the filing. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michael Clements.
Again, for the record, my name's Mike Clements. I'm the Assistant Environmental Engineer for District 5, Taunton, with MassDOT. And you're right, about a year ago, we were here talking about the Route 28 project. It was a resurfacing project we had before you. We were able to work with you, and we were able to receive a negative determination to get that work done. That work, I'm sure you probably have noticed, is now in progress. Looks like we'll, should be on target to finish, I believe, next spring or sometime in, right before summer, I believe, of next year, 2013. During the review of that project, we looked at the drainage along the corridor, and we came up with a number of improvements along the 28 corridor, with the exception of the drainage at Crockett's Pond. As Tom mentioned, the outlet is in bad shape. The pipe has blown out behind the head wall, forced out material between the head wall and the pipe into the pond. So we filed this notice of intent with you today to address that situation. We also, look to improve the conditions out there. We've got a number of improvements that we plan to do there. Hopefully, with your support, we can do them. Well, since last year, we've done a lot of work to get this done. We've had survey. Rich and I have conducted several field visits to confirm the survey, look at some other things. Rich has modeled the drainage in HydroCAD and developed plans to treat the first half-inch of runoff. Again, the purpose of this project is to repair that head wall. Actually, we're going to replace it. We're going to pull the outlet back and put a flared end pipe in, along with a sedimentation pool before the pond, so that you have some treatment before the pond. Also, the drainage. We looked at the drainage in the project area. The project area includes parts of Route 28, the ramp system on the southbound side, parts of Thomas Landers, the intersection with 28A, and 28 north of Thomas Landers for short section, and 28A south of the intersection for a short period. And to do that, we have before you, there's an existing infiltration galley right at the intersection of 28A and Thomas Landers. A series of 5 basins that has already been existing. Those were installed in about, I believe, 93, 94, under a previous project where we serviced Route 28A. Those basins will be upgraded. We're going to clean them out thoroughly and take out the old stone, the existing stone, and the filter fabric, and reinstall new stone, new filter fabric. Also, to treat the drainage on part of Thomas Landers and 28A north and south, we're going to be adding some infiltration galleys within our layout that goes down to the pond, and also we're doing 2 individual basins at each end of 28A. The wetland impacts to this project involve a couple of things. One is inland bank, and another is land under water, as well as impacts to inland bank buffer zone and a BVW buffer zone. At the inland bank, approximately there's going to be 10 feet of permanent impact, which is basically the removal of that existing head wall, and maybe 10 feet of temporary impact due to getting equipment in there to remove the head wall, what have you. The impact to land under water, we intend to remove the sediment that is washed into the pond. We'd like to have a chance to remove that as well. It's about 7.5 cubic yards, we figure, to remove from the pond in front of the head wall. And of course, the buffer zone impacts, there's 3,000 square feet of buffer zone impact to inland bank and about 2,126 square feet of BVW buffer zone impact. However, those buffer zones both overlap, so it's actually a minimal amount of buffer zone impact. The project is defined as a limited project under 310 CMR 10.53, subparagraph 3, F, and K, which pertains to the maintenance and improvement of drainage structures. Further, the project is defined as a redevelopment project under stormwater regulations. And also, the project is exempt from MESA 321 CMR 10.14-7, which pertains to the existing stormwater management systems. Again, I'd like to go over the current conditions. Again, the head wall and outlet is going to be replaced. The drainage, again, we're going to improve the drainage here. So if you want to look at the existing conditions here, the existing, what's shown here in green, this is the ramp for 28 southbound going to Thomas Landers. These are the impacts from Route 28 main section. So a little bit, there's going southbound on 28. These are the two where the impacts on Route 28 ends. There's the intersection where the ramp comes into Thomas Landers. And this is the section of Thomas Landers that's currently being treated through the current infiltration galley. Again, this section of Thomas Landers and the section of Route 28A south of Thomas Landers and this section of 28A north of Thomas Landers is currently untreated and is being directly discharged to the outlet. Our new improved condition we're showing we're going to be treating all of our impacts are going to be treated through a series of filtration galleys and the individual basins at the top, at the south and north end of the 28A. That's it.
Actually, if you get that wrong, it's
North and south end.
Yeah, it's reversed.
North and south end.
Excuse me?
It's reversed.
It's
North-
reversed.
north and
North is
south.
that way, south
North
is
is this
that
way
way.
and
Yes.
south is that way, that's right. If I went the other way. Now, basically, like I've said, we're going to be rehabilitating the 5. We're rehabilitating the 5 basins which are located right here on the, at the intersection of Thomas Landers and 28A on the southeast side of the intersection. There's 5 basins there. Interesting thing that came about when this plan was prepared, it appeared that between basin number 1 and 2 appeared to be brick and mortar. However, there was a brick and mortar there, but the pipe was actually in some sediment. We were able to uncover it, and all of the basins are connected, and now are functioning to some degree currently. When we on the proposed project, when we replace the stone and we clean the basins thoroughly, we'll have we should have a good infiltration through the basins there. And again, treat the drainage from 28A south, which comes this way and heads into a manhole right here. We're proposing to run it through this series of 2 leaching basins, here for outletting to the pond. the drainage from 28A North, and this section of Thomas Lane is untreated. We'll be going through this series of 3 basins here before being outlet into the pond. Just briefly going over the stormwater standards. If you look at stormwater standard number 1, we are not adding any new impervious surface. We're not adding any catch basins or any outlets. So stormwater standard number 1 is basically moot. Stormwater number 2, stormwater standard number 2, peak attenuation. The new structure will provide for some stormwater attenuation. We believe for all the storms, the 2-year, the 10-year, the 5-year, the 25, the 50, the 100, show significant reductions in the peak flow. Number 3, the recharge. We must provide recharge. We are infiltrating the required recharge volume. The total impervious area within the project limits here is 161,834 square feet. The required recharge volume for that particular area, based on the standards, would be 8,093 cubic feet. Our total volume of the galleys and basins that we'd be adding after the proposed project is 12,682 cubic feet. So we're treating the required recharge volume. Standard number 4, the water quality standard. We're achieving 82% total suspended solids for the first half-inch of water. We're actually meeting the requirement under standard number 4. And be perfectly honest, we're not actually required to, because this is a redevelopment project. We only need to meet the maximum standards practical. Standards 5 and 6 are not applicable to the project. In standard number 7, of course, this project is a redevelopment project. Standard number 8, we do have a contractor on board, PG Construction, and a resident engineer will be on site to monitor him during the work. We will be installing sedimentation controls as shown on the plan. Inspection will be daily with replacement as needed. Standard number 9, an O&M plan is in conformance with the NIPD's, our NIPD's permit as we stated in standard number 4. Standard number 10, Mass DOT has an SOP to connect to Mass DOT standard number 10, Mass DOT has a standard operating procedure for connection to Mass DOT drainage systems. So we actually investigate, drainage systems that are not tied into us, tied into our system that are not really permitted, and we, follow through to make sure that we're getting right to it. The construction sequence, basically we'll plan on we're going down, we'll remove the head wall and work at the pond. Then we'll go up the slope to install the galleys as needed. Access to the project, we're intended to access through our state highway layout, or through the layout at the top of the slope. That will require us to remove a couple of sections of guardrail. There's some brush and small trees we're going to have to clear and rub. And we're also going to have to remove a small section of the stone wall that is at the meadow there, so we can access the location down the meadow, and to install remove the existing head wall, install the flared end, install a sedimentation pool, and then of course do the galleys. After that work is done, the guy will be reinstalled, the stone wall will be put back, and we'll provide some tree plantings at the top to kind of shade where we've been, and we'll lumen seed whatever damage we've done to the meadow. That's basically the project in a somewhat quick synopsis, but we'll take some questions now.
Good.
Thank you
very much. Janet?
Mike, you said your construction access, so if I'm looking at the colored plan, it's just going to be, when you're doing the head wall work, you're just going to be doing in that orange area?
Yeah,
that you have on that colored plan, so you won't be going into the the adjacent properties at all for access, correct?
That is our current plan, yes.
Not that is our current plan, it might subject to change, just, yes, that is the plan.
That is the plan.
Thank you. Tom said language, be very clear. Okay, for the board, I did send this over to the town engineering department to have them look, as I'm trying to do for all your stormwater calculation projects. There were some questions that they had in regards to the report and the calcs that were done. So I've asked Mass DOT, I'll be sending this to him, I got this yesterday, I'll be sending this over to them for clarification. That said, the engineering department doesn't think any change to the calculation will change the design of the project, and that, Mass DOT needs to show this board that they are doing the maximum extent practicable in this area.
I'm glad someone else has a
I think-
problem with that, saying that as well.
Well, I just think it's important for the board to get the questions that we have just clarified with some of the calcs and credits that were used and things like that, and some of the recharge volumes and water quality volumes. So I'd like that clarification submitted before this board closed the hearing.
But, but
They
Scott
don't
was,
think- I mean, they don't think that the design is going to change.
right, and
I
it
do
will,
need-
and it will improve the,
It will be an overall improvement to this area, yes.
Right.
I did have one question. I'm like, how many, you're taking out the trees and the brush, and then you're just gonna loam and seed afterwards?
no, he said he was gonna plant trees.
We'll plant trees,
Oh, you will? Okay, I
plant trees at
missed
the
that, I'm
top,
sorry.
and,
I said, I thought
and-
you said loam and seed, I'm like.
well, we're
He did,
gonna,
after he said he would plant trees to shade where they did the work.
Okay.
basically, we're accessing our property.
Yeah.
We're gonna be removing probably two sections of guide rail.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that there are trees going back and just have a little grass area. Okay.
And we're actually taking out a couple of stumps that the sanctuary asked us to do, so.
Oh,
They're upslope, though. I don't even think they're within the 100. within
Okay.
the-
and I'll send this to you tomorrow.
Yeah,
for
but if you would send it so we can,
Yeah.
we'll address what
Yeah,
issues they have.
thank you.
Ted?
Yeah, I was wondering, I don't see the siltation pool, I don't know what that, can you point that out?
Sure, I'm sorry.
That point, and then how do you maintain that? I mean, how do you get
This
down
is the
into?
sedimentation pool right here. We're showing like a plan view right here, and this is we got a couple of sectional views right here as well.
So what, how do you
It's basically just,
clean that out? I mean,
it's,
it accumulates.
there's gonna be sediment, falling into it, of course. It's open. We'll have to go down there with probably shovels and scoop it out every, upon inspection that we see accumulated sediment coming into. But it should,
I think we could probably get a back truck down there too. So they could take care of that.
I was just going up and down that whole area, looking for some places for some open retention areas where there's,
no,
it's really tight.
Open retention areas really don't lend itself very well to
You're
this.
putting in a lot of basins and
location.
everything, it's
Um,
good, it's just the maintenance then,
Maintenance of the basin
Is
is an
the-
issue.
issue.
But, and we, I didn't mention it, but the northbound ramps, there's drainage along those ramps and the upper end of Thomas Landers. Those, we were able to, under that project in 1993, we were able to reroute that drainage out to the lobe of the ramp, but we don't have the capability to do it in this, within this layout right here.
Okay. That was, go ahead.
Okay. Maury?
Where are you proposing to replant the trees? Down by the water to give shade?
Uh, We were planning that, what we were planning to put the trees was up here at where we're accessing, right here, we're gonna remove the guide rail. There's a little bit of shrubbery and scrub trees that we'd have to cut down to access that location. So that's where I was proposing that we would, we'd place some trees there and
Well, and the reason I'm asking that, this isn't not that it's in our purview, but it's a historic district, and it's a sight and view for everybody to see the farm, and I know that Salt Pond's been clearing, and you'd have to go through them to make sure, but I could have brought pictures from 20 years ago where there wasn't a tree on the lot next to it, where they were originally gonna put the retention basin.
Okay.
But my question, so if there's no shading for down at the water, I think we should have before and after pictures, just so it'll make it easier for you for restoration, if you can add those to the file. The dirt that gets scraped off to do this work, if there's a place you could show on the plan, or you could find a place within your easement to stockpile it, so we're not bringing in, stump dump dirt that's gonna be loaded with invasives, and this is a pretty bad spot to introduce them. I don't think there'll be much to anybody to watch over it. And the maintenance of the basins, you said you might be able to get a back truck, which would be another reason, if you're gonna be having to just, take the guardrail down, are you gonna try and get access through Salt Pond, through Bourne Farm, along the top of the, only because you're gonna have to
Just a
move.
temporary basis like that, we may request a right of entry from them,
Right,
so-
otherwise you're gonna take the wall down, put the wall back.
And the whatever trees we plant will probably might be damaged in that,
Yeah.
getting down there anyhow, so.
We don't want to have to take the.
And I hope you
trees down
stockpile the
and
stones,
that.
because the last time the state did this in the 60s, they took the beautiful antique wall away and brought back the other little wall that's there now. So save those stones. A
We
silk
know
curtain.
stones don't deteriorate.
No, they don't
can
rot.
be used again.
No, they're recyclable. This, for when you're digging out, which I think is great, that you're digging out all that old sediment, from road sanding and everything else. But are you gonna put some kind of curtain, like a sediment curtain, just so you don't get any fines going further into the, I don't know, do you usually do that or not?
Yeah, we feel it's shallow enough there.
Yeah, it is.
That we could use silt fence.
It used to be over my head when I was a kid, but I was little. But now it has really filled in. Now, is there a time line for, I know you're exempt from MESA and everything and natural heritage, but for like the turtles and I know all the frogs used to, when I was a kid, I'd get all the pollywogs down there. So is there a time that that would be more prudent? I know you can't stick to it, but has anybody looked into that so that they're not in the middle of spring when everything's moving and living and hatching and?
I mean, I would think, the contract is in place right now. It's a, as-needed contractor, so we, we give him a task order, and he responds to it. So I would imagine,
It might be this fall. It might be coinciding with the work up on that would be great. It is an improvement. At one point, Mass Highway did try to get Salt Pond to use what used to be that, if you're looking at the pond to the left, that was an absolutely cleared field. And they wanted to put a retention basin in there, which it's a shame, because, it would have really saved this pond. And you have done great improvements just from the basins that are up on, Tom B and 28A intersection that were never there before. And it used to come out of there like a torrent.
Gangbusters.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So it has had major improvements over the years, and it's nice to see bigger improvements. And we're lucky to have a stormwater person on the board so that she can ask the other questions.
But before we get to Michelle, we get to Tom.
I'm pleased to see you back. You gentlemen.
I said I'd be back.
Yeah, yes, and you are. And it was something that, in your testimony tonight, you said the sanctuary. You referenced your neighbor.
Yes.
So I know that you've been in communication with them, because if you're pulling a stump for them, that means you had to talk to them. That was one of the biggest things, was to create a conduit of information. That was key on a lot of this, and I'm glad to see the components that I climbed in with you that day are being addressed. I think it's tremendous with the forethought on pulling that back 24 feet. This isn't perfect. There's still going to be things that happen here, but this is such a vast improvement over what's there, and the attention given to this is appreciated. Because sometimes when we were on site, it got a little testy,
No doubt.
back and forth. And there's a lot of really good information, some of it over my head, but not others. They understand it better than I. But the physical, when we were on site and we were talking about trenching and this, that, and the other,
Right.
this is far more going to be far more aesthetic
Exactly,
to
yeah.
the abutter and everything else, and I believe in the confines that you have, it's going to function very well. That's it.
Okay. Now, is this too deep for you?
Too deep?
Too deep for you?
No, I doubt it.
I just have a couple of questions. I did look at the list that the town engineer had put together and agreed with all of his points. But I also agreed with what he said, that because it's redevelopment, maximum extent practicable, it's not necessarily that the design will end up changing per se, but that all the documentation is consistent and for onward into the future. Were any test pits done out in this area where the bleachers are being proposed? Do we know for sure? I mean,
I do not know. I mean, they may have been done when the existing gallery was put in, but we have not conducted any test pits here.
okay.
I assume where you're going, this is the infiltration rate we used?
Well, the infiltration rate was very opposite of conservative, very liberal.
Yeah, liberal.
I would.
The state standards require using the Rawlings rate listed in the stormwater manual, and for even sand is 8.21, and I believe you used 20.
We used 20, yes.
Yeah.
If you looked at the soil mapping, the rate that they were listing was 20 to, I believe, 90.
Right, but there's a difference with the rate that should be used for design stormwater, because over time it will get clogged, much like the one, I assume that you're restoring the one that's out there because it
Right.
has become clogged.
It's somewhat clogged, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is a highly used area, obviously, of vehicular traffic. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes down in here and can clog the surface, even if it is pure sand, which it sounds like we don't necessarily know for sure. So that might be something to just, I guess, that you could condition if you don't find sand out there, then maybe they need to be a little bigger or something along those lines, if we don't know for sure. Most likely it is sand, I understand, but there can be variability in the soils.
I would agree, but I'm pretty sure we got that nailed.
If I could, just a point of information, I was around when we did that work 20 years ago.
So, Mr. McGuire, you really should talk into the microphone, or give him the microphone. He doesn't have to get up, but
It's not for us, it's for the TV viewers.
we can hear him.
Just a point about the soils out there, and they are very, very porous. It's a lot of sand. It's we were in front of the board here with that project in 1991, 1992, doing the design and the permitting for it. So at that time, we did test pits right on the corner there. It was very, very porous.
Great. And that is what I would expect in this area, but documentation is always helpful. Scott had some comments about the modeling, which you'll see. I don't necessarily need to go into. Exfiltration rate, cement. Oh, so the settling basin at the
outlet?
At the outlet. I would expect that the benefit of that is not necessarily for sediment collection. You would hope that the leaching basins
I would assume, the leaching basins
would do that. Right. But what it is for is slowing the velocity down and preventing erosion into the pond. And I wasn't sure if any sizing calculations for the stone were provided, and I missed that. Just making sure that it's large enough for the velocities to prevent erosion there. I wouldn't expect so much sediment to collect there.
Right, I wouldn't expect it to be much. I am not sure that we provided you with sizing calculations for that cementation basin. But I will tell you, the purpose, of the size basically is that, is the limits of how many sections of pipe we wanted to remove and how far we wanted to go up the slope. If we could make that cementation basin, cementation pool as big as you need, but
not the size of the pool, the size of the stone.
Size of stone, okay.
Yep, there's
Yeah, I understand for washout,
Yeah, yeah.
If you could just let us know
I mean,
when you provide other information.
I believe we have
Just want to know what the size of
a,
the stone is there.
Yes, yes.
we have just basically a calc sheet we use for, based on size, and I'm sure it was sized to that, for the stone, for the size stone, but.
I just didn't see it, so it'd be helpful. Also, in terms of the erosion and sediment control around that area, given that it's a concentrated outflow, I'm not sure if silt fence is necessarily the best way to go. If it does rain while you're doing the work and it's 4 acres of impervious cover, silt fence is going to get blasted over and it's not going to do its job. So you may consider something that's a little bit more, lets the flow go through it versus the silt fence. Silt fence tends to work by trapping water behind it and letting the sediment settle out. It's not so much concentrated blasts. So something different might be more appropriate in that location while you're doing that work.
Do you have any suggestions?
I definitely, the stone itself will help create a little,
Right.
So while you're doing the work, creating basically check dams there. Maybe even putting a turbidity curtain out in the, I'm sure there are some different options. Yeah.
If there was anything you would want in particular.
For pre-treatment for infiltration practices, pre-treatment is really important. What is the proposal here? The deep sump catch basins?
The catch basins that are currently on the property is what we're proposing to use as treatment.
Okay. They're not quite
And not the 4 foot.
as deep as they should be, quotation marks. I was wondering, is there any possibility to get additional pre-treatment ahead of the leaching basins? Maybe like an oil grit separator chamber type thing, just to prevent that clogging that's going to cause more maintenance down the road?
That's something we'd have to.
Generally speaking, we don't use them. They're very maintenance intensive. In fact, we build very few infiltration systems like this because it's subsurface.
Right.
And in 20 years, you wind up with what we have there now. And the oil grit separator is a little problematic for us from a BMP standpoint.
Have you found a pre-treatment practice that works better for your maintenance regime?
I think if we went in to reconstruct the whole area, we'd be putting in deep sump catch basins with a 4 foot or greater sump as pre-treatment. And but in this case, we don't have that opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, even full deep sump catch basins aren't that great. They tend to.
But we do have an annual cleaning system. We have an inspection and maintenance system on an annual basis to look at the basins. If they need to be cleaned out, we clean them. And you'll see that included as part of the notice of intent filing.
Okay, I think those were all my questions.
Okay, good, thanks. Ed?
Yes. Well, I guess as I indicated earlier, I'm always impressed with the thoroughness and of your preparations and the detail that you bring to us.
Thank you.
I'm not a hydrological engineer by any stretch of the imagination. I have, however, tried to read through some of your documentation here, and there's one thing that always bothers me. It's the same thing with the project down on 28 in East Falmouth just a couple of years ago, an extensive project. At that time, you brought us, it was 60 or 70 big 3x5 sheets with all the engineering spelled out, and that was really overwhelming, as I recall. But the thing that I never seem to understand is that when you're designing something here, your documentation says you're designing for a 10-year event. That is to say, a storm that's defined as an intensity of rain of 6¼ inches per hour for 5 minutes or so, and that's sort of the storm one can anticipate every 10 years or so. And, all right, I could buy that, but on the very first page of your submission here, it says you're designing to treat the first half-inch of roadway stormwater. And that doesn't sound like an awful lot, particularly if, later you talk about a 10-year storm with, 6 inches per hour and whatnot. And I know from my own rain gauge in the backyard, we had a rain last week. I think I measured 3.5 inches in one particular day and whatnot. So, yeah, I know you're designing for a lot. How do you get a half inch of stormwater being treated? And that's not your infiltration basins. It says to treat the first half inch of roadway stormwater runoff before outletting it into the pond. I mean, that's really not enough. And you can't possibly mean that. I think you seem to be doing a lot more. Can you help me understand this a little bit?
Yeah, I think we can. The half-inch comes from...
If I could just, really, for the benefit of the audience, if you use the microphone, that'd be awesome.
Go ahead.
The DEP sets a half-inch standard as their treatment requirement, and that's based because they figure that most of the contaminants are contained within the first half-inch of the water being accumulated on the roadway. So the calculation itself is fairly simple. It's the impervious area times the half-inch, and we end up with a cubic feet measurement, and we are able to design to that, basically, is the...
So you're telling me that beyond a half inch, all that extra water is just sort of overflowing and flooding down and running down, infiltrated, and all of the oily petrochemical materials which might be floating on the surface are just going to be running down into the pond? You don't really mean that, do you?
Those are captured within the first half-inch, is what we're saying.
And there are two parts. One is to get rid of the oily stuff, and that gets washed off in the first half-inch. And then the second is to slow down the
water coming,
other 5.5 inches that fell in that hour, so that they don't scour out the pond. So there are two things they have to manage.
I won't belabor the point. I still need to do more.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's a learning process for me. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Michelle?
Again, Tom mentioned over to me, the Crocker Pond is not actually an outstanding resource water. If it was an outstanding resource water, we'd have to go to the 1 inch, we'd have to treat the first 1 inch of the water, where now we only have to treat the first half inch. That makes sense? I'm sorry.
No, I missed the first part of that. Could you
repeat
that?
I'm sorry.
Explain that.
I can if you'd like.
Maybe,
Yeah, Michelle?
If it's a critical area, then they have to treat the first 1 inch. And if it's every other area, it's only a half inch.
And this
for
is not
treatment.
critical?
That is,
that's correct. The pond, there's maps that we have to investigate that shows us where the critical areas are. And unfortunately, Crocker Pond is not
We think it's critical.
one of those
Yeah,
areas.
I think everybody here thinks it's pretty.
Yes,
stressful.
But they go by these state maps.
Yeah,
And maybe something to clarify for Ed and for everyone and the audience is, what comprises a 10-year, 50-year, 100-year event? Because they're thinking it's 6 inches an hour, which is a huge storm.
Right.
It's like, so just so they have that idea what the 10-year event is and the 50-year, and then, of course, should be all thinking about the 100-year event.
Rich, do you want to chime in on this one?
I can try to add some information. Yeah, for the 2-year, 10-year, 50-year, 100-year, it's based on
Not to interrupt, you have to identify yourself for the record.
I'm sorry. Good evening. My name is Rich Madsen, Mass DOT. I'd just like to try and add some light to the topic. The way that it is a 2-year, 10-year, 50-year, 100-year. It's based on a certain certain depth of runoff that would be associated with the frequency of a storm, IDF curve, intensity, duration, frequency. The 2-year, 10-year, 50-year would be the intensity, would be the frequency, and your intensity would be the depth. It would be the 6.24. I don't know if that clarifies the question or.
Which is about how many inches would be the 10-year storm that you're talking about?
Yeah, based on TP 40.
In time.
Right. Based on TP 40 for a 10-year storm would be, or I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a certain depth for areas. For Falmouth, there would be a certain depth. I don't know if that.
Or just the 6 inches that you're talking about in an hour is an incredible event. You can't see.
You wouldn't.
But maybe Michelle wants
But it
let her
happens.
try to clarify.
Well, since it was
happens.
all brought up, one of the town engineer's comments and one of mine is that that the way that this was modeled was based on, as they were describing it, the rational method, and TP40 and intensities and all of that. And that's not the way that, per the Massachusetts Stormwater Manual, that these should be modeled. It should be done by a different method. But basically, in a 100-year storm event, over 24-hour period, it's 7.2 inches of rain. That's kind of that's from 1960 maybe, and in fact, new rainfall data has come out, and Massachusetts is probably going to be accepting the new data that has those numbers much higher, based on more recent rainfall. But that's kind of, so a 100-year storm, it's about, actually it's probably about 8.5 inches over a day is a big storm event, so.
So if you got that much in an hour, Ed, you were under a big cell that was dumping a lot of water.
The idea of treatment practices is based on the idea of first flush, and I know we've had this conversation before, but one analogy is if you have a dirty dinner plate and you run it under the faucet within the first minute, you're going to get that food off the plate, and then after that you could wash it as long as you wanted, and nothing more is going to come off. That's the idea with rainfall. You wash it off the first, well, it's usually ½ inch to 1 inch. You get all of the pollutants, the sediment, the nutrients, the oil, and after that it's more of a flooding and conveyance issue that you need to deal with. So typically modeling takes into account both the small events and those larger events to make sure you don't have flooding and safety issues.
Jack, you want to join in on this conversation?
Sure. The other thing you have to
Jack,
consider is-
you have to come up, you have to tell us who you are.
For the record, my name is Jack Landers calling. The other thing you have to consider is frequency, too. If you think about it, ½ inch rainfall events occur all the time. And so when the state formulated this, they realized that the roads get washed a whole lot more often at those ½ inch storm events. So I think, you have to take that into account.
Yeah, about 90% of all rainfall events are 1 inch or less. So that's another reason it was picked, is because of that 90% threshold.
Well, I know everybody wants to move on, but I'm just going to say, if you ever move to San Diego, where they get 6, 7, 8 months of dry weather, and you see that first rainfall come, and all the oil that's been there comes to the surface, you don't want to drive. Because, first of all, they don't know how to drive in the rain, and
That's
second
the
of
first
all, the
thing,
roads
yeah.
are slick. Okay, yeah,
No questions.
Arthur. Courtney.
No questions. Everything has been discussed quite thoroughly.
Okay, you're gonna need a continuance,
Yes.
and Jen's gonna let us know when a good date is.
July 11th, next available.
Is that okay?
That sounds fine with us.
And I'll send that.
Okay, we'll put a motion on the table.
I
and
make a motion on behalf of the applicant to continue this to July 11th.
Second.
And now, are there any further questions from the board? Are there any questions from the audience? Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is a continuance to July 11th,
Excuse me?
say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention?
For clarification, when would you need the information to the,
July 4th.
July 4th?
So I'll get that to you
So you
tomorrow.
can get that in and then enjoy your holiday. Hopefully.
We need to enjoy our Memorial Day, we're working on this.
Oh, well. But it's good. We're glad we're glad it's come in, and
Appreciate
we're
your
looking
work.
forward to having it improvement down there. Even though we disagree on how critical Crocker Pond is. Continued request for hearings under a notice of intent. John and Charlene Peterman, 355 Sherwood Drive, East Falmouth, for permission to construct and maintain a 5-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, porch, deck, spa, pool, retaining wall, entry wall, courtyard, driveway, utilities, selectively remove invasive plant species and replace with native plants and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
You want the quorum?
Well, I can read the quorum.
Yes, the quorum is Court, Michelle, Arthur, Tom, Ed, and Ted.
I was going to say, I didn't remember this.
No, you and I were not here.
Wait just a minute. Jen?
Oh, Mike is on it too, I'm sorry. Mike, you just came in. I didn't even see you come in. And Mike.
Jen, do you have any comments?
I'll, not right now, Madam Chairman, I'll let,
Okay.
Barstool go over some of the changes to the plan that were made in response to your comments and my comments last week.
Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Wayne Tavares, a landscape architect and a professional wetland scientist. Jack Landis-Colley is also here with me, and the owner's outside. Jack did such a good job last week. I think most of the engineering issues of the house were taken care of. The ownership, in good stewardship of the property, raised a number of issues. I met June 1st with Jen in the field to take care of those issues. I had a plan emailed to the office by Wednesday, which is a week ago today, and I delivered the plans physically last week. So we had 4 issues. One issue was Jack had related on the narrative that there was no path at this time. So he's made a change and amended his narrative to say that there's a 4-foot path. We show it on the plan, and I showed it to Jen in the field. And it actually goes through the narrowest part of the bayberry that's there. Secondly, there was an area to be removed of invasive species. So I think this whole thing sort of came about by seeking a methodology. So we've sought methodologies for doing what we had asked to do. And basically, the first one, the replacement of the invasive species, is very similar to what we did last week, but we did come up with 858 square feet in 3 different specific areas. We're showing you how they calculate it out. Actually, last week we had just about the same number of plants. I think it was 34 maybe last week. There's 4 invasive species: multiflora rose, bush honeysuckle, oriental, bittersweet, and autumn olive. And Jen and I talked out in the field about using the Barnstable County Extension Services regulations for spacing, size, and species. So that's what we did. And actually, it was okay in the beginning. What we did is we had arrowwood on their plan, we had beech plum on the plan. I put elderberry in the plan. So these are the sizes and spacing that's specified by the Barnstable County Extension Service. All the new plantings will be 2 to 3 feet or 3-gallon containers as specified in the document. Hopefully that satisfies the invasive species portion of this. The third portion, is the area outside of the limit of work, where I had recommended for good stewardships that a number of plants, trees be taken down. So we were out in the field looking for a way of calculating doing that. But in good stewardship basis, and one of the things that Jen and I didn't discuss in the field, but we're taking out some of these trees to make room and open up sunlight and ventilation for the other trees that remain. To Jen's credit, she saved 2 additional trees. You see them crossed off the list. This is the list. You also asked and requested a list of the trees that were out there. So we made the list, and I scratched out 2 that are to remain. And one's an 11-inch oak, one's a 10-inch oak. Then I came up with an area, 1,578 square feet, in order to do according, again, to the regulations of the Barnstable County Extension Service. So that's what I did. And Jen had also mentioned, why don't you put in some trees to replace the trees that you're removing? And I didn't say anything at the time because I just didn't think of it. It sounded like a typical mitigation, but in actuality, good stewardship is the reason we're taking out the trees. However, we're still going along with that solution, and Jen had asked for 4 cedars. We settled on cedar trees. So 7 to 8 feet, 10 feet on center. I chose 2 more, 6. So we're up to 6 trees and the associated shrubs down below. So again, we went in this with our eyes closed in the sense of saying that we're throwing out the fact that we're removing trees, even though it's for good reason, and still replacing those trees under the guidance of the Barnstable County Extension Service. So we have 43 trees and, 43 shrubs, excuse me, and 6 red cedars to be placed in this area. And understand me when I say that these trees are to be cut only. They're not the shrubbery underneath, which is some bayberry, some huckleberry, is to remain. So we're just putting additional shrubs in that area. It is not to be voided of vegetation. So hopefully I've settled all the problems. We had no problems from that point forward as far as mitigation. The owner is intent on doing a good mitigation plan and a full plan for the commission, and I think that's the only reason that held up this into one more meeting. If you have any questions for Jack, Jack did amend his narrative. I don't know if he has anything else to say, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Again, for the record, my name is Jack Landis-Colley. You asked me for 3 things. Show a place to discharge the pool water, which we show on the plan, to modify the plan to show the 4-foot wide path, which we have, and the third was the narrative. They were all done, submitted.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Jen, do you have any questions? No. Do we have any other questions on the board?
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second. Last chance for questions.
Did by any chance, Jen, did you get a chance to do the orders of conditions?
No, I did not.
Okay. We have a purchase and sales on the property, and again, because we didn't lose, but we actually went backwards 3 weeks, we're intent on the passage of this to go forward, and they need the paperwork for that. So I was hoping the orders of condition would be here tonight, and they could have been signed, but they're not here or available. So we're just
It'll
looking to
be
speed up the
on-
process as much as we can.
It will be ready on the 27th. You had a, what, your building permit was the
30th.
so you'll have it on the.
They signed.
Yeah, it'll be voted on the voted and signed on the 27th, and then she'll process it.
We appreciate it, yes. Thank you, okay, thank you very much.
Good. Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the table. Is that correct? We haven't taken the vote yet? Okay, so we're going to take the vote, unless anyone else has anything else to say? All right. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to close this hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's see. Request for hearings under a certificate of compliance. Vista Capital Management LLC, 20 Beach Street, East Falmouth, request for a certificate of compliance for additional activities conducted outside of DEP 251544. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant had requested a hearing for your regulations for compliance. So they're here to present their case.
Okay, and the staff was not comfortable giving compliance because it didn't fulfill all the regulations of the,
There are just
of the
some
conditions.
issues on the property, and they'll go through those with you.
Okay. Sir?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Scott Goddard. I'm a professional wetland scientist, and it's been a while since I've been before the Falmouth Conservation Commission. So to familiarize yourself with me, I am a PWS. I've been certified by that for several years, CWS for New Hampshire. 15 years professional consultant, managing and performing thousands of delineations and permitting projects. And I own and manage my own consulting firm out of Northborough, Massachusetts. And prior to that, I have a degree from MIT in environmental sciences. Prior to that, a degree in civil engineering at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I am here representing the owners of the property, Vista Capital Management, and the owner is Keith Diggins, who is here tonight. They acquired this property in 2011. And during the process of the transfer of ownership and the title search, it came to light that there was an outstanding order of conditions on the property. That is DEP file number 25-1544, issued in 1991. So we're here really to clean up some old paperwork. I trust that it's both to the benefit of Conservation Commission's paper trail and certainly the owner's paper trail as well. In 1991, there was an approval by the Conservation Commission to construct a somewhat large addition on this property right over here. It was a total of 686 square feet, coming to within 23 feet of the bordering vegetated wetlands, which also contains salt marsh on the property. That was the substance of the application and permitted at the time. This is a quick schematic of the site just to orient you briefly. The property is 20 Beach Street. There's an existing driveway, an existing house shown in orange, a very small lawn area around the property, averaging about 20 feet wide around the house, surrounded by wooded area, a natural buffer zone. To what I have here in green is a BVW delineated by myself just a couple of months ago, and interior to that, a Spartina-based salt marsh that is also on the property. This is a 20 scale plan, so the 100-foot buffer zone comes right to about here. So all but the uppermost corner of the property is within 100 feet. So as I mentioned, there was an application that came before you in 1991. I don't know if anybody was here in 1991 on the board, but nevertheless, that was for the 686 square foot addition, all impervious surface, coming to within 23 feet of the BVW. That was approved. That project was never constructed. Okay, the owners at the time decided not to advance that project, and what they did advance, which was a very minor project instead, which was not on the order of conditions, was this very, very small patio area. And what you can see from these photographs is it's a bluestone-based patio with wide seams between them, about 3 to 4 inch wide seams. It replaced a grass area, and it's still completely pervious in its nature, 70 feet away from the wetlands and on the opposite side of the house. I bring that to your attention only because here we are 20 years later looking for a certificate of compliance. It was my responsibility to evaluate the entirety of the property, to evaluate what it looks like now relative to what was seen by this commission last. It looked at this 20 years ago. So that was one small thing that I saw. But from an environmental perspective, interests of the Wetland Protection Act, I don't see any impacts to BVW, impacts to salt marsh, and it's really a negligible activity. Furthermore, there's an existing shower head on the back of the house that had some old rotted posts. The owner has repaired that and constructed a new little outdoor shower. It's very, very small. It has stone in the base and is a minor activity elevated off the ground. So this is a picture. So these are the pictures of this back corner of the house. This is a picture here for your reference, looking at the front, kind of give you an idea of what the wetland resource areas look like. Lawn in the front, vegetated buffer, thin strip of BVW going into the salt marsh that you can see in the background of that picture. Furthermore, I had the property resurveyed by a local surveying company, and what I found was a different driveway configuration on the plan. Now, at the time of my review, I interpreted that to be that there was some driveway expansion that took place from the original plan. The original plan that was submitted in 1981 showed a skinnier, sort of linear-shaped driveway. And I listed on the COC application that I noted that there was 410 additional square feet of this gravel driveway. It's still a fairly pervious surface, but nevertheless, it's a alteration of the landscape. Since I submitted this, which was on 4/22, a little less than 2 months ago, a little bit further investigation has revealed that, in fact, we believe that the 1991 site plan that was submitted was just simply not a correct depiction of the driveway. And we found the old aerial photographs of the site when it was built in the 1970s, showing the driveway shape exactly how it is out there today, which is a little bit wider at the base and then narrowing up as you go toward the house. A second aerial photograph from the 1980s also shows that same exact configuration. So I don't believe there's actually anything really to point out about the driveway, except noting that we had an old error in the survey plan that was presented to you in 1991. So, kind of in summary, I'm asking for a certificate of compliance for a project that was never constructed. You know, and in the COC forms, it's pretty common that this can happen when projects aren't built. There's a spot to check, in fact, to say the project never took place, please issue the COC and close it out. In a sense, you know, from the commission's perspective, it doesn't need to be closed out because it's older than 3 years old and expired. But from a paperwork trail from the lawyers and title and such, it's nice to have a clean COC. My experience is commissions also appreciate having closed paper trails. So we're bringing this to you, asking for the COC. My assessment is that there's basically nothing much has changed on this property since 1991. There's been some minor landscaping activities that have had no impact on wetland resource areas. The wetlands are intact. They are protected. There's a natural buffer zone to them. We believe that the depicted driveway expansion, if you will, of 410 square feet was just an error in survey. The aerial photographs from the 70s and the 80s verify that. And we just want to close this out for the sake of the attorneys and the property owner. And that is our request for you tonight. Yes?
Pass that other plan down. Madam Chairman, basically what's before the board is whether or not you consider the patio expansion of the footprint and therefore would require the mitigation plantings under your regulations.
Well, I have a question before we get to that.
Every one.
And that is-
one other question. Mr. Goddard, you're saying that the survey plan in 91 was flawed?
That is what we believe by looking at the aerial photographs, yeah, because it showed just like a skinny driveway without the widened base. Yeah,
Do you realize the same survey company did both plans, right?
I am aware of that.
Okay.
Yep.
Was any mitigation planning done?
There was no mitigation planting done. You know, the project wasn't implemented at all. There was.
Except for the patio?
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
So the project, my point is, if all of you would let me finish my point is, there was something done
Correct.
after 1991.
Yes.
If you had already done mitigation planning and not rebuilt, then we wouldn't have a problem with a certificate of compliance. What we do have to say now is you do have however many square feet that patio is. 70 square feet.
Well, I have it as 168 square feet. Of the, it's 70 feet away from the wetlands. Yeah.
But it's within our A buffer to the salt marsh, which is all the no-touch buffer. So it's 170 square feet. You know, I wouldn't say you'd have to take that out, but I would want to see mitigation plannings for that.
And what was interesting in the original submission is that, you know, the project was not way in the back corner of the house, away from the salt marsh. It was actually right up in here, up against the salt marsh.
Right, I understand that.
And that's what mitigation plantings were required for.
As you might imagine, regulations through the years have, as resources have degraded for various reasons, regulations have become stricter.
No doubt.
To try to have more woody vegetation between activity and the resource.
Yep, and I would like to point out too, just to reemphasize that if you stand on the ground, look at the patio, it is functioning the same way as the lawn functioned prior to. You know, I mean, there's large gaps between these set stones, and it's, you know, from a wetland, you know, values and functions perspective, it allows the same amount of recharge and any other interest. I mean, there's really no other interest that might serve except for the ability to recharge water to get down here because we're separated from the wetland resource areas by house.
But I'm assuming you're not putting fertilizer on that. And if it were grass with no fertilizer, it would be serving another function,
Which is,
to take up nitrogen.
if we, well, you know, the lawn right now serves the function of lawn. You know, these are stones, the same way that, you know, stones serve. So I mean, we could. I guess you're suggesting that lawn serves a valuable function.
If this were a vacant lot,
Yes,
you wouldn't be allowed to build on it. We have no touch zone of 100 feet.
I understand that. Yeah, I reviewed the regs.
And it's not a vacant lot. There's a house on it. There's a patio that actually wasn't permitted. That's not what was permitted in 1991.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with that patio. I understand that it might be there. I just want to see the mitigation planning that's required for that, which is a 3-to-1.
504 square feet. Oh, is it 168 square feet?
16. 116, you said.
Oh,
168.
Oh,
Yeah.
168, wow.
Yeah, so 3-to-1 would be 504 square feet of mitigation. There is a salt marsh on the property.
Any other comments? Michelle?
When was the patio put in?
1991 to 92.
The patio was put in.
Correct. And that was not put in by the current owner. We're just trying to clean up, you know, a paper trail that we inherited with this property.
Court, did you have a question?
I'm just a question on the timing of the patio. When was that built?
91, 92.
91. So it was built while the order was still in effect?
That is correct.
Could I speak to that?
Yes.
Were they going to build the patio?
I don't believe so.
I'm Keith Diggins. I bought the property in May of last year, and we love the place. It's great, and we're enjoying it. But what had happened is when I purchased it, I said, well, let me make sure that there's no outstanding items. So when I finally do kick the bucket, it's one less thing for my wife to clean up after me, and we wanted to make sure I saw that. And it seemed like a non sequitur. It's a project that was never built. And I actually looked into it a little bit more in preparation for this meeting, and I came to find out the next person who bought it, who was unaware of anything that had been done, was a lady, and her son got some blue flagstone, and they put that in place the fall of 91. It is 10 by 12, so it's really 120 with some large gaps, so I don't know if that's 80% of 120 or whatever that may be. And that was pretty much it, and quite frankly, I didn't even think anything of it as well. I was just trying to do the right thing and clean up the paperwork. After all those years when I had called in and asked, I think it even took some time to find it because it had been put in some boxes, and it took 4 months to even find what it was, so I was kind of blind. I didn't even know what the order of conditions were outstanding for this thing that hadn't, I just knew it was something that hadn't been built, so I didn't worry about it all that much. That said, I'm just trying to do the right thing, clean up the paperwork. I don't know what the rules were back then, but what we can do is try to find a way to just clean it up.
You have two choices. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can either eliminate those flagstones and let grass grow there again.
Okay.
Or you can keep them and plant 500 square feet of woody vegetation.
Remove it, I guess. That seems like a pretty simple thing. Just take it out. Grass right over it, no problem. I mean, so I sit on grass versus a couple blue pavers, not a big deal to me.
Yeah, so if there's lawn that's restored there, then you have your certificate of compliance.
Seems easy. Maybe I make things too easy, sorry. I just mean it seems easy.
Does it, I mean,
Thank you.
isn't that? Anybody
it's-
else have any other?
That would clear it up. It'd be
Yeah, I
a
mean,
non-issue then.
it's one of these things where somebody else did it and I own it now, I guess, so it is what it is.
So as soon as you remove them and see the area over and the grass is growing, give us a call.
Okay.
She'll check it, she'll get the paperwork for us, we'll sign it.
Okay.
That's off that list.
I have one other question, if I may. I don't know what the rules were then versus now. I heard a 3-to-1 ratio. If I were to shorten the driveway the commensurate amount of square feet and put grass in there, could I keep it as a mitigation effort of give and take?
Yeah, I can certainly live with that because the driveway
It's
actually
more
is
important, it's in the front.
Is more important, it's
Less
right by the.
backbreaking work for me. I just plant some grass and I can go to Home Depot and roll out the strips and have it in days.
Grass along that sawbush?
Well, it would be grass,
It's replacing the grass that it was taken back in
native,
91.
a native, you have to put some kind of a native
You tell me,
mix.
you can tell me what the mix is, we'll take care of it. Or whoever tells me, sorry. By all means.
Well, I guess it depends on where we would put it, you know.
Where would you put, how would you remove the driveway? Where were you gonna put
It's
the grass?
I think what he was suggesting is, so there's this area of patio right there, so take that same area right here.
Oh, off the top? Okay.
And just put lawn there, because it would be right in front of that.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay,
All right.
Works for me.
I would rather see a strip.
Well, I think they need the width at the bottom, because there's no other way to turn around.
Because you're at a dead end.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't go through anymore.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
Okay.
So we'll
Sure,
just-
that's fine.
We'll take that area, and we'll
I'm
replace that
That's
same square
fine.
footage right there.
to clean the driveway up anyway, because it's, I wanted to just dress it and be done.
Yeah,
So we'll perform that work, and we'll call Jen for an inspection.
yep.
And will the COC then be signed after that, or can it be signed today with that agreement?
No, we have to see that.
Okay.
It'll
It
go
would be
quick now.
seed, not soil.
I just think it would make sense for the applicant to submit a sketch of what he's gonna do. I mean, best to have it all on paper and approved before you go ahead. Because you don't wanna have to do that and then somebody gets grumpy for the wrong reason.
Yeah,
'cause they
talk to
misinterpret.
Jen what our requirements would be
You know what I mean?
for the law.
You don't have to make a big deal of it, but I think you should have a sketch, or take an old existing plot plan and draw the thing out carefully, describe what you're gonna do, where you build, digging out the thing, if there's a stone base underneath, are you gonna take that out and put loam in and seed it? In other words, a little more detail, that's all.
Makes sense, and that's fine. I'm just gonna suggest one other thing, and you tell me I'm nuts, but, heard it before. If, to me, they're mutually exclusive. The people that didn't do the addition didn't do the patio. Can I close out the order of conditions and the patio is my problem that I have to deal with you with and replace in kind, or is that undoable? I'd like to close out, the closing of the house for 9 months has been waiting for this meeting so that I get that order of conditions. It was part of the sale of the house. Not that I'm going anywhere, I just would like to release the poor gentleman whose money is being held, and we've been doing engineering and really trying to do the right thing and do due diligence, so I just put that out there for the mercy of the board.
What if you filed an RDA for the?
He's gonna have to file an RDA.
Yeah,
for
just
driveway
close
work.
out the, he didn't do any of the other project, and an
Yeah.
RDA has to be filed for the swap of the lawn for the patio.
All right, you want to make? Okay. In the effort of not dragging this out and more time and money, it sounds like it's cleaner to just do what you first suggested, that's what I'm being advised now, just.
Well, because the RDA would be additional filings, but we'd rather just take care of this, without additional permits.
I was trying to make it simpler, but I made it harder, so I am,
Okay.
right? Am I
Yeah.
correct?
So now you're just gonna take the patio out, so give me a
No,
call
no,
and then.
no,
No,
the driveway will go.
They're gonna take the driveway out.
Take the driveway. Take the driveway out, when the grass grows, take a picture.
But no RDA.
Okay.
Okay. And should we submit an addition, after the driveway is done, should we submit an additional picture, a plan revision showing that limit
Yeah.
Definitely do
Okay.
that.
So that's what we'll do.
Because otherwise you won't have any driveway by the end
So
of it.
so just to be clear, we're going to remove 168 square feet of driveway.
We should really measure the bluestone patio exactly, and then do
All right,
the.
we'll get an exact measurement.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make it a 1-for-1.
Right.
Right.
So it's 120 at 80% of the 120 because of the thickness of the joints. I mean, really the engineer will engineer it for your acceptance, and I'll have to pull out.
How about we just say
100 square
120
feet.
and just call it
All right,
that?
120.
120 and it's clean,
You
it's
got
done, it's over.
120 sounds good.
And you'll get a revised plan showing the new final driveway location. That will go into your records and you'll have it in
Because
the
it's
files.
Correct.
a 14-foot wide driveway, so it's only gonna be, it's up
8 feet. 9 feet.
Eight
plus
and
or
a half feet.
minus a couple inches. We'll
Okay.
engineer it and make it right.
Awesome.
Thanks, I really appreciate it.
Okay, everybody's happy?
Thank you.
Okay, we're not gonna take any vote, we're gonna move on to the next.
Is that when we come to the next meeting?
No, you don't have to come to see us anymore,
Okay.
unless you'd like to, you're always welcome.
Wasn't that painful, I'll come back.
No.
If I have to, whatever it takes.
All right, but you don't have to come back.
I won't.
Thank you.
But you're welcome to come anytime.
We're moving on to continued enforcement issues. Stephen Giugio,
Giugio.
how do you pronounce it?
Giugio.
Giugio, 192 Second Ascent Road, Falmouth, for clearing and altering wetland resource areas and in buffer to restore resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, one of your fellow commissioners alerted us to clearing along the bank at 192 Saconaset. There's a series of photos going down. Specifically, look at the ones dated July of 2009, where you can see actual clearing of the bank towards Belmarsh in this area. The property, I've been aware of it over the past couple of years, and it does look like there is vegetation altering on that property. So what I would recommend to you is to issue an enforcement order that would require us access to the property, review the site conditions, and the filing of a restoration plan to restore any damage to the coastal bank in that area.
I haven't seen these pictures.
Oh.
But if there was a problem in 2008 or 2009, wouldn't you have contacted me?
Unfortunately, our
Kathleen Giugio.
enforcement issues get backed up, and we have to take
The
time
person
to
that took
look
the
them up.
photos was on the property last year, scared my 2 daughters. Walking around. Wouldn't he have called then?
I don't know why anybody was on your property last year.
Why don't you ask?
This gentleman took the pictures from across the marsh.
But the person that was on the property is the same person that took the pictures. I think you're aware of that.
Not last year, no.
Okay, the year before.
Ma'am, all I'm saying is there's alteration to the
I haven't
coastal
seen
bank.
them.
It's okay.
Well, first of all, we bought this property. There's more vegetation now than when I bought it. We planted 50 to 100 indigenous plants. I saw a picture from the first year we bought it. It's more overgrown than it has been. And dead trees, yes, I thought we could take them down. Bullbriar, thought we could take it down.
And who told you?
Commission. We
Commission
worked
when?
very closely with you,
When?
very closely, when we first bought the house. We hired a landscape architect from Harvard, who did extensive work on the property.
Ma'am, all I'm saying is there's
We took 2
activity-
lots, we
there
combined
is
them to one to satisfy
activity
you.
on the property
There is a little activity on the property, of
within the
course.
coastal bank that has been cutting and clearing on the bank,
I haven't
and
seen
they're
these.
trying to address it.
Are you aware that there's a stone wall around the whole property? I've never only been down there once because of the poison ivy. We have no grass at all.
Did you get permission from the Conservation Commission to do any of the work within 100 feet of the marsh?
All I knew is that we could take down dead trees in Bullbriar.
And
What
when was
permission
that
do you
sent
have?
to Mass?
That's what when we first came to commission, which we were at commission for about 2 years.
When was that, what year?
I don't know, maybe 2000 and,
It was
2000, 2001?
2000.
2001, I think it was complete. It took like 3 years to build.
And
We value this property as much as you do.
No, I'm sure you do, but we, just getting permission to build doesn't give sort of blanket permission.
I just find it strange that
Clean up.
2008, 2009, 2010, we're in 2012.
It's still happening.
Yeah, I want to show you 2 trees that one of my daughters just sent me from the house.
But,
Okay, we'll
perhaps
leave that
you don't
there then.
understand
Well, one
what-
of these came down into the pool, because we didn't take it down. Bullbriar, strangling trees.
you can remove bullbriar, but you need to get permission from the Conservation.
Okay, well, I
Commission.
wasn't aware of that.
The permission that you got in 2001 doesn't suffice. The permissions last for,
I
if
didn't
it's
know
a
that.
notice of intent, lasts for 3 years until there's compliance. And then if you want to do further work, there are various mechanisms you can come in. If it's
Okay, I didn't know
minor
that, I'm
work,
sorry.
if it's a vista pruning, it might be under an RDA. If it's more extensive work, then we would need a notice of intent. I think that's.
Can I see those, would you mind, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
Are they all dated?
Some of them are, yeah.
Some of them, yes. Most of them should be.
Well, I will do anything you want me to do. I love my property. I have no curtains in the whole house. So if someone is taking pictures, that's a little invasive, that's fine, if that's what they want to do. But, I mean, I don't want to see anything. I don't want to see the water. I can look up at my pool area and see the water.
Okay, well, I think what's on the table now is.
I'll do
whether-
whatever you want me to do.
Whether
Just tell
we
me what you
have
want
an
me to do.
enforcement order, and then if we issue this enforcement order, the staff will go out and evaluate what the situation is. It's a little difficult to do it from
Most definitely.
pictures across the marsh. What?
No, you just explained what
I mean,
what
this isn't
mechanism-
my,
the mechanism to get
you
this
do know
done.
this isn't my house, that my house is in this woods right here. This is the big house, the big kahuna, with grass everywhere.
Ma'am, I'll go out and evaluate.
Go ahead.
For you. You can be on site if you'd like. I'd be happy to meet you out there. It was brought to our attention, we have to address.
Right, that's fine. I
so
told you I will comply with anything. I will comply.
Okay.
So, Jen?
Pick
would
a
you-
time.
I don't have my calendar with me to do.
Well, I
Well,
move
you
to
can email me.
postpone consideration.
Yeah,
of
that's
this.
what I'm saying. Why don't we have Jen take a field trip and make an evaluation, and then we'll, okay?
I'm sorry, I wasn't
So we're
listening
not
to you.
going to move on the enforcement order tonight. We're going to, if Jen can make a field trip, go out.
Yeah, that's
To
fine.
visit the site with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then we'll see what the issue is, and it may be
Yeah.
something that you can rectify with an RDA.
Okay,
I
great.
second Ed's motion to continue this hearing.
Ed?
And, that's why I used the word postpone.
Postpone. Postpone
Postpone,
Right.
this discussion.
yes. So all in favor of postponing until we get a report from Jen? Say
Aye.
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 All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the next is request to extend the existing order of conditions. Seacrest Beach Resort, 350 Quaker Road, North Falmouth. Request to extend the existing order of conditions, DEP 253376. Jen isn't here, but I'm
I-
assuming this is
Probably, yeah.
their long-term.
Right,
Yep.
it was,
I would make a motion to accept the,
If that's what it is, if it's their long-term
should I wait then?
project,
I'll wait.
maybe we better
There's no-
wait. Jen, is this, Seacrest wants to continue their long-term
Beach management, yes.
beach
I recommend a
management?
one-year extension.
One-year extension.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
I know but do they know that there's the horseshoe crab time of
That's
year?
part of the.
Okay, I want to
that's
make sure
part
it
of
was
that.
on that one.
It was on.
Because the horseshoe crabs are laying their eggs right now. Chappie had a whole bunch of them there the other day.
That's neat.
I know.
More than you'd seen for a while.
Long time I
Yeah.
haven't seen them.
Yeah. There used to be tons at Woodneck, and then I haven't seen them for a long time.
Beach nourishment, my dear.
Vote orders of conditions.
Yes, more.
They do have a horseshoe crab time restriction.
May 1st, July 15th.
Perfect, thank you. So if I see somebody down there next week, I can call you?
Yes.
Okay.
Stuart.
They cannot screen the beach.
Until,
Stuart
what's the
Rockland.
date? July?
15. Care of Langley Road Nominee Trust, 32 Langley Road. Jen.
Madam Chairman, the quorums are behind that.
Oh, I have them right here. Langley Road.
Oh, there they are.
Yes, here they are.
That's where they are.
Do you want them?
Yes.
I love them.
Give them to the boss.
Pass this down to Jen, please.
If you wouldn't mind.
Court, Michelle, Arthur, Tom, Mike, and
All right.
I'm sorry, second.
Right here. Yeah.
That wasn't the right one. Langley Road.
I mean, that's 3.
That wasn't Langley Road, Courtney.
I have it. Ted, Mike, Maury, Betsy, Tom, Ed, Courtney. Langley Road, we all remember this. Big raise and rebuild, infinity pool, spa, plantings off to the side, down Langley Road on the other side of the property. I don't think the board had any major special conditions you wanted there. The only thing was that we needed we took the landscape plan from the landscape architect because the plants were missing on that. And other than that, I don't have any special notes on what you guys wanted. You had a question on the proposed mulch behind that stone wall, Ted,
Yes,
Lori?
yes, and the Comptonia
Yeah, I
too.
saw you trying to sneak over there, Mr. Durkin.
We had the planting and grass for mitigation.
Yeah?
Comptonia not acceptable. That was Ted. Elevation at top of riprap to be no more than 10 feet.
That was Ed.
And,
Relocate drywall.
yep,
Correct.
Replace
That was
disturbed
me.
vegetation from eroded area.
yep.
Construction seawall no higher than existing grade, and no Comptonia. Got it.
With all those changes or discussion?
Yeah.
We'll accept it as written and discussed.
Second.
Right, but there was a correspondence from Holmes and McGrath sent to us regarding permission from a budding property owner, Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries.
Yes, there'll be a finding in the order of conditions, because there is a,
Land easement or something issued, right?
Well, there's a question about the
there's
delineation of the
there's a question
property.
on the property line.
Yes.
So we'll put a finding in there that there is a question about the property line, and per standard condition 3 or 4, I believe it is, you don't make property rights determinations. They need to comply with all legal easements, rights of ways, property rights.
Right, but you
Yeah,
do
we're
need to
making
put
no
that as a finding.
determination on that.
You do need to put that down as a finding.
Yeah, that will be a finding.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't make that determination.
A motion,
Absolutely.
motion and a second on the table to accept as read and discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Robert, Wareham, no, it's Wareham, not Wareham. 78 Associates Road, West Falmouth.
I think it's the same quorum.
It's
Is it
the same
night?
night.
Yeah, it's the same night.
Yeah.
78
Closed it.
Associates, this is the septic system. There are a number of things you guys talked about on that one. Give me one moment, please.
Protecting the trees.
It was trying to get the machine behind the house.
Chuck put on.
Tom, you wanted to, I have special conditions, 4 inches alone instead of the standard 8 on the Falmouth friendly lawn. They're gonna need to tell us where a dewatering basin is going to go, because they will intercept groundwater. I do not.
Almost guaranteed.
I-
Well, the tank's gonna be in groundwater.
Yeah,
so
the
they're gonna
tank's
hit, they're
gonna
gonna
hit
hit water.
groundwater, they're gonna hit groundwater, I can almost guarantee that. And limit work right before lot 22C, because we had issues.
Yeah, it has to go right along the property line.
We don't know who owns lot 22C.
Right.
That was gonna be a,
Inform the commission when doing the work and installing and moving the 1,500 gallon tank, because certain commissioners would
Wanna see how it's
love
done.
to see on site and watch them do this. Post and rail fence to delineate the location of the system, so not to damage, because the system will be in the front of the yard.
I don't know if you want, we said post and rail, I think we said posts.
Oh, post or
Or post and rail,
fence.
only
Yeah.
because it's a
Yeah.
high-used
Yeah.
area for moving little boats around and
We will
snow plows will
require
take it
them
out.
to install this tank at low tide to minimize any dewatering.
Right.
A moon tide, how about an extreme moon tide would even be better? They can gain
The
2
only
feet.
problem is if they get really, if they're
Yeah,
really
they
slow,
have
the
to
other half of
submit
the
a
tide, if the
dewatering.
tide starts coming in, it's gonna be way too high.
And,
Prior to work, they need to start and submit a dewatering plan or get a frac tank on site or other methods to control the water. One, they have no room on site to put a dewatering basin. That they have no room.
no, they have to bring a
So they're gonna have
dumpster or
to
something in
truck
there.
something in or ask their neighbor to use a property, I'm not quite sure what. And then another special condition, orange construction fencing along the lot line in the dune. I do think that's gonna be more visible and less damaging to the dune than
Yep.
hay bales and silt fencing.
Yep.
That's what I.
And they have to flag that tree in the next
cedar
lot.
tree. They
Yeah,
have
the
to
16
protect
inch
it.
cedar.
Protect that
They
cedar
just have to
tree.
protect that cedar, even if it's not on their property, just so they don't.
They can
Just in
wrap-
case.
They can wrap orange.
And the one last thing we did have is,
Fence around it.
we needed the permit from the Board of Health prior to them doing this, because there are variances and they have not been in front of the Board of Health yet. And I think the Board of Health
Well,
is
they
gonna.
have been in front, but they had to go back again because they hadn't answered all their questions.
Right, and they might need a weighted tank.
Right.
just an observation. When I walked out there, that they're gonna temporarily take the fence down that's around the oil tank that's
Yes.
bolted to that
Yes.
concrete pad.
Yes.
I really want to see them do this.
I know you do, Tom, that's why you're having a special condition
can
that
do
they
it.
have
It's
to
not a big
inform us
deal.
of when and where, or when. Because you were just so.
Do we have a motion on the table?
Yes.
You want
No, I will
to
make a
sell?
motion to accept the order as discussed and read.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Joseph and Jean McCabe, 86 Eel River Road.
No. Hang on. Sorry, Susan. Eel River Road is,
I know I'm on it. I want big trees.
Ted, Mike, Maury, Betsy, Tom, Ed, and Courtney.
How many big trees?
This is replacement of trees.
Big trees.
Well, what would you guys like to do? They came back with you, we had a very lively discussion about 30 years versus 60 years versus size.
Big trees.
Okay, you need to be a bit more specific on that one.
I think Ted can explain it.
Ted will explain it for
Well,
us.
we have, 27 trees cut down.
Okay.
Do we have an accumulative caliber inch of those trees cut down?
If you want to-
Yeah, we have it, just a second.
I mean, we're trying to get to at least half.
That's fine, just tell me what you guys want and we'll write it into the order. Where are my pictures?
I'd like to
looking, it might
suggest
be on the
caliber
plan.
inch for caliber inch.
Well, they're not gonna.
And they can be
That's
fewer
not
trees
gonna
if they're
be-
bigger
I
trees.
don't think that that's gonna be.
Yeah, we do want bigger trees.
We have
That's-
that-
That's part of the
Bigger
issue.
trees. I think per caliper inch, if you're looking at 2 to 3 inch trees, it's not gonna be practical on that property.
We already went past that. We want 5 to 6 inch trees at a
I think
minimum.
we were talking 6-inch trees, and there was plenty of discussion about methodology to get them in.
Yeah.
I think one of their concerns was the bigger the tree, the more disturbance into the shrub layer, the more invasives might come in, so they'll just have to.
Do a
They're gonna have to,
management plan.
they're gonna have to do a management plan and deal with any invasives.
I have one
reviewed the
question.
minutes from the meeting, and that was why, one of the ones
Yeah.
and it was very clear that Ted in particular commented on how you get a machine in there, and you could kind of follow a route, and they could put them in the nearest thing and sort of back their way out, and the disturbance would be minimized. There was even discussion about moving them in wheelbarrows and stuff. So I'm not buying the 2 to 3 inches.
Well, you could do ball carrier, or you could actually do, I mean, if you have to get a small track bobcat
Like
with,
a bingo or something?
with forks, but we've got to get large trees in there. You can't, you put the smaller trees and they're going to be overtaken with the shrubs,
Yeah, yeah.
and they'll die out. And we're never going to get to the existing condition we had before the canopy. That's the issue. We're trying to get back to that as fast as possible.
Yes.
That's not our,
It's not our fault that the owner cut the trees down.
right.
I had one question for Ted and Maury, really, because you have the experience. I just wonder about the survivability of the really large trees. If they're done, planted right, and the way they, do they have a high percentage of survivability?
As long as they have the good, as long as they're good quality.
So what are you looking for, what size trees?
6.
Yeah, I think we get, I mean,
6
what we're
feet or
looking at
6
is,
inch?
we only have
6
so much area
No,
to
I
try
know.
to get to a half parity, halfway to the caliper that was taken out. And so if we're gonna be doing it at 12 to 18 feet apart from each other, we only have so many trees we can put in.
Yeah.
And then we have to get the inches up to that. That's what I was wondering, do we have the caliper inches that we're taking out of there?
I think I do. Just a minute.
I mean,
I
is it
think
like 100 and?
Blue Flax Design gave it to us.
There was testimony that a 6-inch caliper tree, somebody said it was, that'll be a 5 to 6 foot root ball, and
Right.
the representative for the applicant testified that it would be more like 4 feet.
There's all different, every tree's gonna have different, there'll be heavy balls and light balls on all kinds of different
Yeah.
types of trees. So you just, if you're gonna do a project like this, you'll be looking for a healthy, lighter bulb, and you'll be bringing it in, that's all.
Right, and the key is they gotta water.
Yeah?
So they're gonna have to do an invasive management along that area as well.
I think
I think they already.
they're gonna have to.
No, I know they are.
Yeah, but they have to come back. I think part of this order of conditions is, a condition is they have to come back with
We must have missed
a
that.
revised plan showing where these are gonna be, and a revised, methodology as to what little track you're gonna take to get these trees in place.
And the plan has to be accepted by staff.
Oh, yeah, all this has to be accepted. What kinds of
Wait,
trees and so
You guys wanna
forth.
see them again? Revised plan, revised methodology.
Yeah,
Do you wanna see it again?
Do we want to see it or staff?
No, I think you can.
I think you can handle
I think
that.
you can handle it.
I will talk to you.
But I would like to have you, in any future case too, and you have somebody doing this egregious cutting in the resource area, immediately, give us the cumulative caliber inch.
Yeah.
And the variety of trees. And we want them all listed out. We don't want to know, well, there was a few small ones. We
Well, I
want
have
all
them
listed out.
bracket
They're
all.
supposed to do that anytime
We
they
don't
cut
have it.
trees.
I'm looking for
Wait
it.
a minute,
I'm not
no,
finding it.
because, I thought Keith provided that information.
No.
I don't think he did. I think we were doing it ourselves.
Original.
And
He's
they-
Billingsgate, right? I don't see it here.
I mean, that should be given anytime trees are cut.
I know, they put them all on the plan, but for us to sit and
Yeah.
pick it in them all.
And they know what, I mean, you've got a management guy. I mean, who was the guy that was
The guy from Billingsgate.
Billingsgate,
Keith
yeah.
Johnson.
Keith Johnson, I mean, he'll know how to do this.
Yes, I know.
I mean, he's an expert, I
I-
suppose.
Anything else? Want to make a motion?
Oh, we're gonna put markers in,
Markers to
boundary
delineate.
markers, so that they know not to go there anymore.
I think this should be more than just little boundary markers.
Yeah, this should be,
I
No,
think
these
this should
should
be
be
a
like-
fence,
Concrete bounds.
all right? I mean, it should be obvious.
And are we going to allow, when they do put the big trees in, they are gonna need to water those? So they're gonna put some kind of drip irrigation, I would assume, in that, so we should have.
Until they're established.
Yeah, until they're established, and trying to think what else, let me look at, if I wrote anything else down.
I actually want to be notified when they're doing the work too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's actually all I have.
But getting back to your point, Ed, about whether these things are going to survive it being large, I've seen amazing things happen. I've seen trees that have fallen off trucks with cracked root balls, and they've put them in a hole, and nobody's taking care of them, they come back. So they do need to be taken care of. They do need to be taken care of.
And the issue here usually.
But it's not like it's, the larger they are, the more difficult it is to take care of them. As long as there's a requisite, as long as there's a complementary sized root ball with
Well,
them.
they need
Yeah.
a root ball, right?
And you're doing it at a reasonable time of the year. But I planted stuff in the middle of August, July, all kinds of weird times, in the middle of December, January.
Okay.
I have a suggestion that we give this order of conditions for 5 years and require annual report with pictures. You know, certain photo sites
Got
be
it.
set up before they do the work, and then,
Yeah. Got it.
okay? Can we have a
Can I
motion?
make a procedural
Yeah.
suggestion here that this is a pretty complex.
I wouldn't give it for 5 years. 5-year permits are for very specific. You want to give it for 5 years, you can.
It's only,
Okay.
well, the work has to be done. I think there should be a date. The work has to be done by,
Oh, I think.
By
But
this planting
monitoring
period.
for 5 years.
but they can monitor for 5 years.
The work has to be done by this fall.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It has to be done this season. I mean, this growing season. Yes.
This is a complex order, far more than the normal things that we're doing.
Right.
You want me to send it to you guys?
And I would suggest that you
Next week.
review the final order
Okay.
before it's issued, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Just so
see it
that
again,
there's
yeah.
nothing
I think
to
that's a good
discuss.
idea,
Well, I think he wants me to look at it.
yeah.
Well, I don't care who does it, I just
Well,
think
somebody, yeah.
somebody needs another set of.
Yeah,
eyes.
actually,
Yeah, that's fine.
Ted and I are going to go on a field trip on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And
Yeah.
we'll swing back here and
Yeah.
check it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That
not,
sounds good.
it's not a problem.
I
Jen,
know,
just-
Courtney,
it's
don't
just-
worry about it.
It's just simple.
Let's move on. New Silver Beach.
Do we, no, we don't have a motion on the table yet. May we have a
I'll move
motion?
that we,
We also didn't say a timeline, that the trees have to be planted by a date certain.
September
I would
15th.
do it by the end of, like, the growing season of this year.
September 15th.
September
Yeah.
15th.
There you go.
It
So if
would
they want to do it right
definitely
after
be
Labor Day.
This growing season, absolutely.
September
September
15th.
15th.
Okay. September 15th.
so with all of that, I'll make an order, I'll make a motion that we approve the order as discussed.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any abstention? One opposed. New Silver Beach Association, 160 Silver Beach Avenue,
This
et
is pretty
cetera,
much,
et cetera.
yeah, this is, okay. Well, Ted, Mike, Tom, Ed, and Courtney. Pretty straightforward beach management, beach, guys, maintenance program. Just two concerns I have, they want to do the work once every 2 or 3 weeks, and I think that's a bit much. The second is, I think this board should have approval over who's going to be doing the work. The more we get these little homeowners associations in to do beach nourishment or beach maintenance activities, the more I'm concerned with the fate of the dunes that abut these areas. Usually, these homeowners associations let me know in advance who they want to do the work and who they're hiring. I think that you should have approval over this one as well. Okay, and how many times would you allow them to do the work? Is there last correspondence with the board requested association wishes to reserve the right to perform beach maintenance no less than once every 3 weeks during an extraordinary storm event. The conservation staff would be notified if beach maintenance work were performed less than on a 3-week interval. No.
What kind of equipment
Why would you need to grade the beach every 3 weeks?
to make it perfect?
What would you guys like to do?
We've never allowed even the town to do that.
No. They grade it when it,
And there is a timeline for the horseshoe crab, too.
There is no
This one?
grading on this, it's only raking.
what's the date?
It would be the same
So
date.
July 15th.
It would be the same date, May 1st
May
to July
1st to July
15th.
Oh, I didn't know if you had the DMF letter.
No. I have nothing.
File behind you.
I'm not on this one.
Yeah, I'm not either. Do we ever make people put a bond up? I was just thinking of that last one, we just did the tree thing. We used to always make people with big, especially
We had to do for
enforcement. put bonds.
subdivisions
Yeah.
all the time. I know
Yeah.
the planning board used to make that happen.
How many times should they do it once a month? They're allowed to screen it 3 times a year?
Are they gonna be able to do a
Yeah,
rack line?
I think that's more reasonable.
Not grade, just rake.
Yeah,
No
once.
grading.
Rake and screen. I will
If-
put a
if-
time of
if-
year, if the Division of Marine Fisheries has commented, I will put a time of year restriction in.
If there's
I
a,
don't see any comment in here.
Okay.
I'll check
You'll have to
downstairs, Madam Chairman.
if there's a caveat, if there's a big storm event, and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a,
But they're gonna have to let
They
me
have to
know.
give notification
and
anyway.
before, after any storm event, if they still have to approach and notify the office.
10 days prior, it says in the order, in the notice.
Okay, and approval of the
Contractor.
beach maintenance person, contractor to do the work. I will take care of that, and if any trouble arises with that, I will let you know. Okay?
What did we approve for interval on this?
Once a month. Once a month, subject to a DMF, Division of Marine Fisheries letter regarding this area. They wanted less than every 3 weeks, not,
And what's their season?
they wanted no less than once every 3 weeks.
No, I know, what's their season extent?
February.
When are they proposed? 3 weeks throughout the year?
Throughout the summer.
Summer.
No, they're not gonna do it, they're not gonna
months.
spend the money to do it.
No, I understand. Understood. I want to know, in other words, do we do it once a month, or do we say, okay, you can do it so many times?
Once a month, May through September, how about that, Courtney?
Yeah, but you want to have before May 1st, and then
Yeah.
after July 15th,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
monthly after
before
that.
Subject to DMF letter.
Right.
Before May 1st, after July 15th. Got it.
Could somebody put a motion on the table?
Mike said his hand up.
Yes, Mike?
Wait a second, Mike has a question.
Is there a rationale for every month, every 4 weeks? I mean, is
No,
there
they just want it more
science
frequent.
behind it?
No.
They wanted to do it once, no less than once every 3 weeks. I can't stand when that's written.
It's not very grammatical.
Well, my understanding is there is no grading, it's a raking
It's
process.
raking,
And where is
they'll be
the,
subject to, DMF time of year restriction. if there
How about
is
rack
one.
line? No rack line, right?
The rack is to be left in the lots that are part of
Yeah.
this.
Is this being done above the rack line?
being done.
mean high water.
Where are we doing this? Is it
Come on,
above the
guys,
rack
come
line?
on, look at your plans.
It will be the rack line.
Huh?
No, there'll be a rack line.
Because we get pretty specific with the town, that they
Then
couldn't
once a
go
month.
below the rack.
Which means they can do
No.
it every day.
Mean high water is what we always say.
What's the harm?
Morning.
I mean, why are we, if it,
Because when you constantly do that, you're taking away all the natural, everything on the beach that builds the beach. That's why they're disappearing.
They're taking
There is
all the-
science to it. Actually, CZM doesn't even believe, in the DCPC here and a lot of beaches, you can't even do beach grooming because it's detrimental to the beach, to the environment.
is there a time frame? It just feels that we picked a time of a month.
Because we're thinking,
They're picking a number.
They
and
asked.
No, they picked something less than we picked a number, and if we have a good number, I like the number. That- It just feels unscientific.
Well, Mike, I'm not on this, but the rationale is, if it were up to us, we wouldn't have this done at all.
Right.
Because this isn't how beaches are naturally formed. Beaches get, every once in a while, there's a storm, and you'll get little pebbles that come in,
so we're allowing for it.
and that, then the sand blows from there and forms the dunes. But, you know, given that there's a balance, we're gonna let them do it some of the time, so they have a nice beach. They would
Then
probably
if
like to
we're-
do it, they asked, actually,
Every day.
I wasn't on, they asked every 2 weeks, and we said, no, you can't do it every 2 weeks.
I suppose there are people who'd like to do it every day. I mean, it's okay, and if we're saying that there's a moon tidal cycle that moves through, and we want to be sure we're not coming in, we're trying to balance it with that, and once a month feels like
That sounds good.
tied to something, to me, I'm fine, I'm just,
That's
I
good.
just don't like.
That sounds good,
It's a tidal cycle, that's good.
No, no,
Nailed it.
Could we have a motion on the table, please?
Only to accept the order as discussed.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Yeah, go on.
Edward Gordon, 120 Racing Beach Avenue.
My notes say site was a mess. Yeah, it was last week. That was Tom.
What's that?
Tommy said their site was a mess, so they had to clean their site.
Absolutely. If I was the homeowner, I would have been ripped.
And one of the findings is that it's outside the scope of the original project, and you want a new notice of intent. Someone said that.
Did we have the,
Because everybody that was on 78 was allowed.
all right, I was on this one then.
Read the form for 78.
What do they want to do?
Last week.
The steps.
They're putting
They're
steps in.
rebuilding the wall. Do you all remember?
Yep,
Do
this
you
is
want
what.
to allow it under an amendment, or would you like a new notice of intent? Because this was an amended order of conditions.
I would make a motion to not accept it as an amendment because of scope of the work with that wall. And I'm not really against it. I think it's not, I mean, we allowed the fill, but now they're putting in a vertical wall.
Oh, that's right, they're
But
putting in
then-
a big,
Well, we should discuss this, because maybe, I mean, I made that only.
Yeah, this
because
is
well, we don't know
6
how
feet
much
above
fill.
existing grade.
We don't know how much additional fill is gonna be brought in.
I think it actually might have less fill, because the vertical wall now, instead of it having a slope,
Right, so it's
is
not.
actually might be less fill brought in.
I don't, or we didn't get
No.
we have the existing,
Yeah,
and then we didn't get the proposed, and
Proposed.
now the new proposed. We didn't see
Right.
the difference between that.
yeah.
Would you like to vote it under an amendment or not?
But we have a motion on the table that this is a
It's
That's
a
an
pretty
easy
big
one to
scope.
write up.
It's
Okay,
major.
that's fine, if you think it's outside, this board can allow an amendment to an order of conditions when you believe it's within the scope of the original project, and the modifications are minor to moderate. Anything outside of that, anything outside the scope of the original project.
Well, the problem is we don't have enough
requires
information.
Yeah,
A
and
new
there's,
notice of intent.
and the mucking around, I mean, just to get the footing for the wall, because it's 6 feet tall.
Yeah, so the motion on the table is not to accept this as an amendment.
Okay.
Positive motion, Susan
Okay.
just reminded us.
The motion,
I make a positive motion.
okay, the motion on the table is to accept this amendment as presented. Okay, so we're all on the right page?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of accepting this, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Say opposed.
Opposed.
And somebody stay silent.
Nay.
I'm not on the quorum.
Oh,
Some
that's
people
why-
aren't on the quorum.
Sorry.
I said
I was just picking
nay.
on you, that's.
Okay, we move on to vote certificate of compliance. Susan Sylvie and Alma Marians, 145 Old Dock Road, West Falmouth.
Okay, just to let you know, you've got all your information from last year. Last week, we could not find in our files a 1992 RDA. The DEP did find a record that a negative determination of applicability was issued to the Falmouth Conservation Commission by the Falmouth Concom to Susan Silverly on 10 September of 92, so September of 10th, 1992. Our records do not provide an address nor any information about the request that was made. So they have it in their database that a negative determination was issued.
But we don't know
But we don't know what it
We
was.
have no idea what it was.
Could have been on the, oh, they had a dock.
No, it wasn't the dock.
Oh, all
The
right.
dock was under.
The dock was under.
Oh, okay. I
I
remember they
looked that
built
up.
the
So,
dock.
does the board want to grant compliance on this property or not?
To compliance to what? If there's no,
Here's the
there was
issue.
never a permit.
Here's the, no.
No, we're talking the
Look.
whole house.
Oh, okay.
Look, let's just get the parameters. We're just sticking within the lot of the property. We're not talking about town land
Right.
today. We're just sticking within the lot,
And we're just talking about the wall.
and we're just talking about the wall.
Well, the wall and the affidavit that was submitted that were pruning mitigation plantings now.
No, well, we'll get to that in a minute. The first thing is just the wall. This is what the sticking point is with certificate of compliance.
And,
The mortared wall
yeah,
Yeah, you can start.
in a V zone.
We'll
yeah,
we'll
from
get to
all of the
that.
testimony presented, and picking up on the attorney's comments about evidence needed, I would say that this particular project falls into the class where, personally, I believe the preponderance of evidence, and that's the legal phrase, the preponderance of evidence suggests that the wall was in fact there, and the additional information we're receiving right here tonight from DEP just reinforces that. And the fact that it was there suggests to me that, repairing it was an appropriate action to be taken.
Okay, well, I'll comment. And my feeling is, we don't know what was permitted in 1992, so we can't say the wall was part of that permit or not. So I'm willing to grant that there was a wall. But then I say to myself, if this had come before us, if they had asked permission to change this wall from a little regular
Dry lane.
Dry
laid
laid
wall
rubble wall.
to something that has probably twice the density.
We don't know any of this. You don't have any evidence of that.
Yeah, you do. You
I
a
do
picture
have
in the
evidence.
file.
Ed, this is one of the things I work on. I work on density of materials. And
Well, we don't have a record of the wall in 1991.
Yeah, we do. We have a picture of it.
we have
Gave it to
pictures
us.
of it, and besides which, the same wall is all on town land all around, what that
We know
wall
what it
looked
looks
like.
like now.
Yeah. No, we know what it looked like then. We have pictures of it.
They
It's in the
submitted them.
file. They submitted them. And there were rocks that were that size, that's like the field wall that I have behind my house. Now, they have all these rocks that have been chipped that just fit into place, so it's all solid
Now it's a
wall.
cut, it's a cut wall with mortar in behind it, a footing, and it's not a dry laid little rubble wall anymore. I mean, it's a substantial wall. And their testimony there, that they had, said that there was no mortar, and the pictures in the file clearly, you see the cement mixer, and you see the mortar all filled in behind the wall. And the old wall was like this big, Ed, and the new wall is this big, and it is all in a velocity zone. I don't think it's in the DCPC, though.
No.
No.
And
But,
there's 3 feet of fill behind
and there's
the
3 feet of
walls.
fill behind it in a V zone in the town road layout.
I'm sure it wasn't permitted.
Tom, you look
Yeah, we're not talking about that. We're just talking
I know.
about
I'm just saying,
the
but
wall.
if you want to talk about preponderance of evidence, there are a lot of different things going on with this site that weren't permitted. That's
And
what I
that's-
see. I see an anomaly all the way along on how this was carried out.
Well, and the testimony was, oh, well, we just, my child,
Right.
a rock fell off, and so we decided that this would be better.
I think
Well-
the term we used was organic.
Organic growth on the site.
Yeah, the work, you know what I'm talking about. That was the term that was used.
Court?
I have no problem with that. I think we've been, I have concerns about the entire property, and the way things have been conducted, but it's, I think clearly there appeared the thing at one point or another was the permission given, it appears that there was. I think we should go ahead and much as I'm.
These are all in the record. These are all copies of the ones in the record.
Michelle, you weren't here.
Nope.
Arthur, you weren't here.
But I do remember the property.
Last week.
Yeah, that's what the wall looked like.
It doesn't thrill me, but, the alternative is to tell them to take it out.
No, they just,
That's a
they can,
20-year-old wall, and that's a new wall.
they can take out the mortared wall and they can put back the wall that was there.
Well, I mean,
If
this
compliant.
wall in 20 years is going to look a lot closer
No,
to
it
this
won't.
wall,
No,
which
that's
was
not the
20
one
years
for
ago.
20.
No, it won't, Ed. And personally, I'll tell you, part of my issue is, as far as the wetlands issue, this is a wildlife issue. Those,
How will the difference in the walls, if there is one, affect wildlife?
because
Scientifically, give me some kind of an
there's
explanation.
a lot more spaces for snakes and things to crawl in walls that are built like that. I know this, Ed. That other wall has virtually no interstices.
If compliance was issued for this wall, which we can't,
Compliance would be issued for the property, not
okay,
just
I'm
the
sorry.
wall.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I
sorry,
looked-
I
the
didn't mean
wall.
to snap, I'm
Okay.
clarifying that for the board.
Yeah,
We're all focusing on the wall.
It's Tom has the floor.
The property.
if compliance was issued,
Yeah,
are there other outstanding issues of enforcement with this property, even with compliance being issued?
they're pruning their mitigation plantings.
So there are other
Yeah.
items that would have to be addressed by this owner, even if a compliance was issued.
Yes, they would have to stop pruning their mitigation plantings in accordance with their order of conditions
Well, and the other thing too is they cut down the cedar tree
on the town
and
property.
planted a pear tree.
Yeah. So the pear tree has to go and the cedar tree has to be, yeah. Cedar, pear, and that's it.
Where did the pear tree come from? They bought it.
They cut it on, the thing goes, it's on town property. They cut the cedar on town property.
And who put in a pear tree?
They did,
They did.
Tavares did.
I will tell Mr. Wall to remove the pear tree.
Replace it with a cedar tree.
Yes?
Yes.
I don't think I'm on quorum to vote, but
Mike, were you here last week?
last week?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, then I am. Then
Then you
my
are.
perspective, after listening to this, is that the town and the state have had some pretty poor record keeping, and I don't think it's gonna go away. You tell them to take down that wall, and we're all gonna be back, and I don't think we have the evidence to say that we're right. I don't know where, if the legal advice we had is correct, that the preponderance of it goes to them, we're on shaky ground here.
Well, we did not have that legal advice from our own.
Oh,
You
then
always have to-
maybe we need legal advice,
You
but
always have
I'm,
to-
all I've heard.
You always have to take anything that you hear from there or from our board, from the
That's
point
me.
from the point of view of the person who's speaking.
This whole, I'm stuck with the fact that this is 2012, and we're worried about what happened to a wall and.
It just got built
It just
last
got built.
year,
Just got built.
last summer,
We're only worried
last
about the
fall.
wall that was built last year. There was a
This
wall.
project's been going on.
There was a pre-existing wall that we don't know whether it was permitted or not, but we can't say that it wasn't permitted.
That had an enforcement.
So we're not saying anything about it. We're saying there's a wall there. It's the nature of the wall that's there.
And that wall is a
That's the discussion.
totally different animal compared to what was there before.
Like the roll
Yeah.
method, just so I
But the
can
wall
get
was
the
there.
analogy correct.
There was no
But
mortar,
it was
there was
an-
rubble.
No more.
It was a farmer's wall, it was very, very small.
For the
And
sake
this
of
is
moving us
now
along, I make
twice
a
as high,
motion
twice as
to
wide.
accept,
grant.
to issue a compliance.
Okay, well, let's have a second.
I'll second.
Positive motion to issue compliance. Any other questions? Okay, everybody in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Everybody
Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Against.
opposed?
1, 2, 3. All right. I am gonna have them take the pear out for the cedar and for compliance stuff.
And can they get an enforcement issue for cutting their mitigation planting?
That's,
I have instructed.
And can we
Attorney
also
Wall.
pursue with the town to see about the
Oh,
wall out of the road
I have
layout?
one other business
Yeah.
thing for you
And the
guys.
invasive
I
species?
think we got a stronger foothold with the town coming in. and having-
Guys, I have,
Well, they can't remove her wall.
I have a,
They still have her wall.
I'm listening.
Jen?
other business. The Long Pond Treatment Feasibility Study has concluded their winter pilot testing.
all right.
They are requesting summer pilot testing
Wow.
in the same location.
How's it,
And the same plan?
Yes.
Everything's the same?
is everything in place anyway?
Everything's in place, the flow isn't gonna be any greater?
How's it leaching?
Oh, I looked at it. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, been out a couple times, it's fine.
Do you want our blessing?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Would someone
Make a
please
motion to accept the extension of the,
to bless this?
yes.
Could we have a second?
Second.
All in
Thank you.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Unanimous, so moved. 1, 2. Motion to accept, to
To adjourn.
give a blessing. Motion to adjourn.
I good,
Motion to adjourn.
Move to
Second?
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Where's my,
That's a cool little clubhouse out there in the water.